Oh. Oh, I didn't see you come in. Oh, it is Sunday. Holiest of days. The Just Gaming podcast. And oh my lord, do we have so much to discuss. So many things indeed. Dragon's Dogma 2. Release 2. Not exactly what we thought it was going to be, but still a fantastic game and plenty of us to discuss surrounding the drama, as well as just playing the game in general. Helldivers 2 has continued to soar and grow. Naoki Yoshida with Final Fantasy pushes back Final Fantasy XIV for Elden Ring DLC. It's just a little bit of what we have to discuss, maybe a little bit of Baldur's Gate 3 related things as well, but welcome, my friends. Welcome back to the Just Gaming podcast. Take your seat, grab your cup, your finest cup of liberty, ale, or whatever else it might be, and enjoy the show.
Trying to think of what they call it in Dragon's Dogma.
What? I don't think they have liberty. Do they?
No, I'm trying. I'm sitting there thinking. I was like, okay, I know it's like beer or just ale. I don't know what they would call it.
I don't know.
Huzzah! Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. I got Mr. Pibb here. Well, there you go. That's something better than nothing. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Just Gaming podcast with me, your host, Ian, and that guy.
That filter that you put on me looks terrible on YouTube.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna turn it off. I was just trying to it was just you're just really bright. You're just really bright.
I can be not so bright.
I think I don't know what it is, but it's like it's bothering me. I'll fix it. I'm sorry for making you look more dumb than you already look. There you go. We're turning it off.
I turned it down.
No more stuff. There you go. How about that? You feel better now?
Yeah, I do. I feel
now
great.
You froze. There you go.
No,
I think it's just your internet. That's all it is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, we're gonna have one of those days.
Yeah. You like froze for a second, but I was wondering because like you hopped on, you're a little bit more pixelated than normal, which is fine.
Which is fine. I'm old. Yeah, I'm old school.
Fine. It's fine. It makes you look better.
Makes me look awesome.
It youthens you. That's what it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does it give me more hair? Because I feel like I would need that part of the pixel.
Can't even tell.
Can't even tell. You can't even tell. You can see the trees through the forest. So
welcome back, everybody. We have a lot of different things to talk about. I mean, this is going to be a pretty obvious discussion. How it's going to basically just jump right into things. What's been going on with you this week?
I am done with nights.
I'm listening.
I'm back to my normal schedule. So I'm super excited. I'm on vacation all this next week. To sit there and no life the crap out of some more Dragon's Dogma 2. I purchased a new GPU. So pretty excited about that. I actually fired up some Cyberpunk on psycho settings at 1440p.
Ooh,
and it is jaw dropping. That is the most beautiful game I've ever seen. It is jaw dropping.
Yeah.
I didn't think it could do it being a 4070 Ti Super. I was thinking because I've seen it on Drake's, which he's rocking a 4090, but he's like, no, turn it. So it started making me think that I think hardware is going to get to a certain point to where software is going to be the solution for most everything. Like you're going to have the hardware base to be able to run the software.
Yeah.
But I think we're about to get to that point of software is going to catch up to fix a lot of this stuff. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. All right. Yeah. So something like software being more flexible than hardware, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, with the 40 series, you're able to get the DLSS 3.5 frame generation and stuff like that. It's really impressive what it could do. Like it didn't even I couldn't even hear it going, and it was just like I was getting 100 frames in City.
That's crazy.
On
That's
psycho settings. It was ridiculous. So
all right, yeah, not too bad. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a while for me.
Yeah.
I have a 3080. I'll upgrade. I don't know. Maybe 50 series.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Drake said he's gonna go 60 series, which makes sense. So.
Yeah. I mean, I probably should have gone a TI this last time around. You know what I mean? Or a 4090 or something, or 3090 instead of a 3080. But whatever. I like my GPU. Everything runs just fine.
You got that. Yeah, it's not a bad GPU. Like I said, I'm changing these GPUs like underwear. Seems like.
Yeah, you've switched 3 within like 3 years? 2 years?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, 3
Something
separate
like
GPUs in 2 years. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I feel super content with this one though. So I'm not.
Well, no, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, didn't you went from like a 1660 to a 20
1080.
series to a 1080
to 1080, and then to a 3060,
and
then to a 3070 Ti, and then to this.
That's crazy.
But I only purchased 2 of those. So
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, your son bought them, so that's kind of like effectively you purchased them as well, right?
Well, yeah. Well, yes, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's the life of a PC gamer, man. Like I'm actually like super content. I
don't think that's the life of a PC gamer. I think that's the life of an addict.
It is. I I just text you while I was at work. I was like, I have a problem.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that is that's not something that I personally would do. No. So yeah, for me, like it's really good that you're gonna be on that you're gonna be off on nights, because now we can actually like talk during the days, and it's not just like games, seeing each other on the podcast. We can actually play games together and stuff like that. Now I can help you farm up and actually level in Helldivers 2, which is really nice.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff to catch you up on in Helldivers 2, that's for sure. So that's gonna be really cool.
Not even that. I tried playing it the other day, like just jump in just to see what the card, how performance and stuff, and so I launched a mission and not thinking, because I'm not real savvy on how everything works per se in the co-op part. So I'm launching, and then all these people just jump in my match, right? Well, I'm like level 15 or 13 or something like that, not very high, but all the other people were like level 2s, right? And so we were jumping into a hard or whatever, and so as soon as we get there, they flip and die immediately, and I was like, okay, I'm not doing this. I'm not carrying them. I like to be carried. I'm a passenger princess for Helldivers. I don't want to be the driver. So I just
I don't know, man. Usually, even if I jump in like a random match in Helldivers, or really in any multiplayer game, like if it's not on stream, I'm absolute passenger on stream. If I'm off stream, I'm typically like pointing out the way, like, hey, let's go here, let's go this way, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's nice.
So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. But it's been, like I said, I'm super excited for the week. I'm in a good mood, man. Good headspace. So looking to start doing some more stuff. So it'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. So for me, a whole lot of nothing for the most part. Really just kind of a relatively chill week. I gotta figure out whether, like, one of my cousins is getting married, so I gotta like figure out that whole thing. I gotta
decide if you're gonna go or not.
Yeah, like there's something else. There's like an event that I was planning on hopefully taking a part of. Something to do with like streaming and YouTube and stuff. And I still have no idea whether that's going on or not, or whether or not the dates will conflict. So yeah, like my dad called me. He's like, I need a definitive answer, and I'm like, and I'm like, sure, I'm going. He's like, you can cancel, but we need to know that you're going now, like you're intending on going. So if something does happen, we can adjust after, but we need to know now, because they have to like get a seat for you and all that stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be that whole thing, right? So but outside of that, just hardcore gaming. just hardcore gaming, man. Just doing that whole
Hardcore
thing.
game, my guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we would normally have the discussion of like, what are you playing? But obviously, it's a new game release. It's one that we've been looking forward to for a long time. So it's pretty obvious that both of us have just been jamming Dragon's Dogma 2, as is probably the same for many of the people that are watching this right now.
Yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I think I'm at 25 hours, something like that. And I feel like I've been playing it a lot. I mean, heck, I woke up at 2:00 this morning, and I've been up since 2:00 playing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
so much so that I literally had to I had to just stop playing it like probably an hour before we started this, just to cleanse the palate a little bit. I was starting to get the eye, dry and just staring at the screen.
Just like the full on zone out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like,
I know
all
that
right,
is.
all right, gotta wake up.
Yeah. So, oh man, this whole Dragon's Dogma situation is just
It's like,
it
here's
sucks.
the thing. I'm you could look at it from the perspective of the internet or whatever. I'm looking at it from my perspective. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's the only thing that could be honest, I
Yeah.
think. It's a real mixed bag. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because I kind of love this game. I kind of love it. Like, it's the more I do, the bigger it gets. It's just like I keep peeling this onion, and it just keeps going and going and going. It doesn't seem to, like, there's an end in sight. And I get that some, a lot of players are having a lot of problems with performance and whatnot. And I have been too, with, in town, dropping into the 40s and stuff like that. But I haven't had any crashes or anything to complain about on that side of it. But I feel bad for people who are, because there's a lot of people who were super excited. But it's also a game that I'm loving, but I wouldn't recommend it to somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's where, like, I'm the most conflicted with it, right? Is the fact that, like, I really love the game. I genuinely love it. I think it's an absolutely fantastic game. I can't pull myself away from it. I haven't had any crashes, but overall the game runs like garbage. And it's noticeable. It's constantly noticeable. Even sometimes when I'm outside of towns, there are certain spots where, even if I'm just going in like a small cave just to go do some things there or something like that, immediately I'm running into like frame drops and dips and things like that. And I made a video kind of clarifying my points on it, because one of the things that I noticed was there was this large dialogue that I believe was mostly coming from console players more than anybody else, because they don't really have a lot of ways to be able to monitor frames. And one of the things that I kind of realized is that, like, before I started playing games on PC, every time there was a visual issue with my games, so lagging, screen tearing, freezing, all of that stuff, I was like, oh, it's a bug. Oh, my game's glitching. You know what I mean? Like, we know the terminology. So the thing is that, it's not until you play on PC and you have an active frame counter that you realize exactly what's happening. And when people say frame issues, the problem is that weird, like, console / PC master race bias thing starts shooting back and forth. So you start having players that are like, oh, cry some more. Your 49 million GTX EVGA, NVIDIA card can't get you 1 billion frames. And it's like, dude, that's not what the problem is. The problem is the game doesn't work. Like, the problem is I paid $70 for a game that, largely does not run or play very well. You know what I mean? That's what the problem is. It has nothing to do with, oh, I need to get 1 billion frames and I don't care what anybody else gets. It's just, in general, there's a level of quality that we expect when we spend $70 on a video game. And it's funny because, like, there's so much to unpack here, because it started this really weird dialogue where it's not even, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've been following a lot of the dialogue with Dragon's Dogma 2, and now it's kind of shifted away from even Dragon's Dogma 2 at all, and it's just about microtransactions and content creators. And it's about content creators lying or withholding information from other people. And then it's also about microtransactions and how everything needs to be black and white. oh, you play games with microtransactions, then you're not allowed to, complain about them. And it's just like, I'm sorry, dude. And, excuse the language for this, but if that's what you believe, you're a fucking idiot. If you think that things are like that, have to be like that black and white, like that's just not how things are. Things have never been that way. Life isn't that way. Nobody operates like that. Nobody thinks like that. Nobody lives like that. And it's just funny that we want to pick and choose those kind of fights. And then also at the exact same time, by the way, like I've gotten people pushing back on me for it. I've had a lot of, I've seen a lot of comments. I've had people drop into streams. I've had people say they're unsubscribing from the channel. And it's like, guys, why is it that you look like, the funny thing is it's like we are all walking contradictions. Why is it that you look at somebody because they're putting themselves on camera, because they're making, entertainment and videos or something like that, that you think that they have to live to some unrealistic standard that nobody else does? Nobody else does.
No, and right now, at least for the last 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, we've kind of lived in this era of misinformation. And so, like with the reviewers not talking about the microtransactions, automatically the community's thinking that it's sinister on the reviewer, right?
Yeah.
And me and you were having this conversation, and I fully understand people having that take, because there are companies on the interwebs that are afraid that developers and publishers aren't going to send them review copies, and that's going to leave them out of the rat race, right? So
Yeah.
but like I said, so when you have that, then that opens up a whole nother can of worms. Well, now these are fixed. That's when people start talking about an Xbox tax and this and that. It's fixed, right?
Yeah.
But you made the point that not every developer or publisher is sending the media packet and the review copy to the person. Sometimes it's a third party agency that just sends them the review.
Yeah.
The
So
game.
just to clarify on something, and I'm really surprised that that none of the other creators have really talked about this, but say if you're sponsored to play a game, or say you get an early review copy, it's not always coming from the publisher or the developer. So sometimes what they do is they reach out to media platforms that all they do is just go out and recruit people to be able to, review the game early or promote the product or make videos for it or whatever it might be. Like, that's just something that happens. They have these agencies that are out there, talent agencies, that what they do is they go out, they seek out talent, they find people for it, and they, send stuff their way. Go, here you go, here's your review copy. They'll send you like a little docket, just to give you, like, I don't have like any type of embargo on this or anything like that, but I got one for Starfield, right? And when I got my one for Starfield, it had like next to no information other than literally just the exact same thing that they spit out in like the trailer for the game, or a couple of snippets from the Starfield Direct that they had at the time. So outside of that, there really wasn't a whole lot of context. And you see that across the board with a lot of these when you're getting it from a third-party company. So there's going to be a difference between the quality and quantity of information that's given to a content creator, depending on who they got the review code from. If they got a review copy directly from the publisher, chances are they're going to have the most information. And I think that for me, one of the things that like stands out, it's just kind of like the I don't know, like what, not really talking to like the validity of like people's arguments and stuff like that necessarily, but one thing that I will say is that this whole entire conversation about Dragon's Dogma 2 has been hijacked by microtransactions. And it's admittedly the least worst thing about the game. The performance and the price is the worst. The combination of performance and price are the things that are the worst part about Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah.
That's it.
You're right. There's no so the game comes out and it's got really, really just shit performance on everything that it's out on. There's not like, well, the PlayStation 5 version runs better, or the PC version, they all run equally bad. And then on top of that, you have the microtransactions that pop up on day one that people weren't expecting to see because like reviewers didn't talk about it. They just didn't talk about it. So they weren't expecting it to see. So now, because I'm pissed off the game doesn't run well. And then if you play on Steam, everybody on here that has a PC, you play on Steam, when you click on the title of the game in your library, the first thing you see is like 5 blocks of DLC for microtransactions.
Yeah.
So you're gonna look over and be like, this is some bullshit, right? It
Yeah.
just your brain just snapped just illogically. I mean, if you look at them, I mean, I think there was only one of the things that I think kind of irked me a little bit, and I get it that you can find them in the game, but the port crystal really bothers me because the game's designed around not fast traveling. You know what I mean?
You know what the funny thing is that so one of the things that like the apologist for it, like so here's the thing, like I already said, the microtransaction conversation has completely hijacked the real issues with the game, though. That's not saying that the microtransactions aren't a actual issue. Like that obviously is an issue. It's been an issue in all kinds of games. But one of the things that I do find, like, I think I brought this up on stream, or I brought it up in the video. I can't remember which one it was. But the funny thing is like my problem isn't actually with the microtransactions. It's with the people that are fucking defending it. That's the problem that I have. I have the weird mental gymnastics that people are trying to do to defend. Oh, well, it's been in other Capcom games. Oh, well, it's been in games for 15 years. Oh, well, it's like, I don't care. I don't want it. Like, it's fine for us to say that we don't want it. You can't say, like, what world do we live in that I can say, yeah, I really enjoy the game, but I wish it didn't have this stuff, and I disparage it for having it. But at the same time, I have to have people say, well, if you like the game, then that means that you can't talk about those things. What are you talking about? Like, what is this world we live in? And especially with the port crystal, the funny thing is with that is that actually the people that are calling it misinformation are fucking stupid as shit. I'm 33 hours into the game and I still don't have a port crystal yet. Yep. If I bought it, I could already be using it.
Yep.
Because they are right. You do get a pretty decent amount of fairy stones. Do you have any idea how much time it would save me and how much effort it would save me if I just bought that port crystal and laid it down somewhere?
Yeah, for sure.
What are you? What? This is what I'm talking about. Mental gymnastics people are trying to run to. Yes, you do get other port crystals in the game, and yes, it's basically the car and not the gasoline. But that doesn't mean it's not a paid convenience. It is.
It is. Well, it's specifically. The reason that I had such an issue with it, that is specifically designed in the game to be an inconvenience. I mean, and I'm not saying that the director or the game devs, this was a malicious thing to do, or you know what I mean? That's not where I'm going with it. But they designed this game specifically to make fast travel super hard to do. They just do. I mean, it just is. I see people in the chat are talking about the RC where you can get pawns, higher level pawns. To me, that's just someone ruining their game experience in general. You know what I mean? That doesn't really. I'm not sitting there saying I condone having it. I think it's dumb to have microtransactions in single player games. Anyway, I mean. I think honestly, it had all of these microtransactions just been skins, I don't think people would have said shit about it, to be honest with you.
See, the problem is it's not even the skins thing. Like the issue is this. And like I pinned a comment in my stream last night. Instead of saying, yeah, we don't really need it, but it doesn't really matter. But it's not that expensive. But you don't really actually need it. But you can get all the items in the game. But we've seen it in other games. Like, why can't we just get rid of the bullshit and just say, yeah, it doesn't need to be there. Period. Just end it right there. There's no reason to try to jump around in circles to try to figure out a way to justify it being there in the first place. Do you work for Capcom? Do you think they need the extra money? like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just like when we're having the discussion around microtransactions, all of a sudden you want people to start, oh, well, what about live service games? It's like, that's a completely different beast. This is a $70 premium title that has
business model.
microtransactions.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's stuff that's contained within the, what's the other one that I hear? Oh, it's stuff that's contained within the digital deluxe edition. No, it's not. It's part of it. It's part, but not all of it. Like, the port crystal sure as the hell isn't in there, because I'd have it right now and I'd be using it if I did. And it's not in there.
If you go to the elf tree, did you find the elves? If you finished
No,
that,
not yet.
Okay,
I haven't got the quest to go there. Don't
okay.
spoil the game. Be very careful.
I'm not going to spoil the game. But that's a reward for doing the quest over there. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, like it's a travesty, and I think Capcom's actually kind of happy that everyone is pulling at the microtransactions instead of the actual, game working like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I've seen some weird takes on that too. I believe it or not, I've seen people say, well, maybe the RE engine has just hit its limit. Maybe it's.
I've seen a lot of people say they think that the RE engine isn't built for open world.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, if you have an NVIDIA card, you can hit Alt R, and it'll show you what your CPU usage and your GPU usage are at the time. And I had Ian do it, and I did it, and at no point was my GPU over what my CPU was doing. Ever. Like, the highest that my CPU or my GPU would get was somewhere around 50% load, and about 125 to 150 watts. So it's not being utilized at all. They basically made Counter-Strike an open world game, just all CPU based. Which that like in itself automatically, and I kind of almost wonder if they were leveraging that on the consoles, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Honest, it just doesn't make sense for this game to run this poorly.
Look, I flat out said it in the video, and this is what I think the actual reason is. The reason why the game is running so poorly is because it is CPU bottlenecked. They didn't fix it because their fiscal year ends on the 31st.
Dirties.
That's it. I really do believe that's what the reason is. I think that they rushed the game to release. It needed time for, just general, optimization. They didn't take the time to do that. And then as a result, they just pushed the game to release. Why do you think that they had already prepared a statement for the game before it even released in the first place?
Yeah.
That's the thing that blows my mind, that nobody picked up on that. The same statement that they gave to players on Steam is the exact same statement they gave to IGN 3 days before the game came out. Let that sink in for a minute. So, like, the thing is that, when people are, trying to say that, they'll say, don't complain about games that you own or games that you play or whatever like that, which is also stupid as shit. But regardless, the thing is that the reason why people are upset is because they're justifiably upset, because they put a $70 price tag on this game, which raises our level of expectations for that game's release to be worth $70 and be, working on day one, not have any issues. And then on top of that, when you throw in microtransactions, the CPU issues, and also the inability to be able to start a game over or, have another save file or something like that. Like, bro, I like, what year is this? It's like, there's just so many like knucklehead problems that the game has that it's just like, bro, like, come on, man. Like,
the crazy thing is like, I would consider myself fairly new to the series, right? And so going into it, let's just say I was just super, super casual, okay?
Ooh,
and I bought the game.
I do want to point something out, because I've also seen something else roll around where people are saying 12 years. It was developed in 5 years. A little over 5 years is when they start. A little over 5 years ago is when they started development on it. And that's the other thing too that I want to bring up and just kind of throw in with all that for like really quickly. is that our level of expectations for the product that we get depends on who that product is coming from, how much that product is being charged, like how much, what the value of the product is, how much it is, right? So $70 premium game, a AAA company, one of the biggest companies in all of gaming, Capcom, who usually releases relatively solid games that run decently well on day one, also well-known major hit, massive hit titles of video games, one of the most well-known publishers and studios in the industry, have been in the industry for 45 years. You know, like, all of those things start to raise your expectations for a game. Players are less forgiving when you have players are less forgiving when you have so many different things that are adding more pressure to the situation of that release, to the expectancy of that release. Then you add like de novo and stuff like that on there on top of that, and it's just like, it just makes it even worse. So what ends up happening is that the minute that there's a gaping wound in the game, everybody's looking for all the other different causes and effects that led to this as well. So of course they're going to start pointing out microtransactions and everything else, right?
Yeah, for sure. Back with what I was saying though is, like, as a casual player, of just being new to the series, I could easily see people getting on, starting, because you just don't know how the world works in Dogma, and seeing those microtransactions and believing that they need them. You know what I mean? So, because like you said, you haven't even found a port crystal yet. You know what I mean? And you beat the first one, and you've been playing it, so I could see where people are gonna, be tricked. I would say almost convinced that they need those.
Yeah.
How
And
the
I think
game's designed.
I think the thing is too is that it's like, it's frustrating for the players that really love Dragon's Dogma 2 because they want to jump in to kind of defend it, because they look at it and they say, well, a lot of these people are saying stuff that's not real, right? Because the problem is, like, anytime there's a major issue like this, it gets interneted. It gets it gets twittered. You know what I mean? Where you have people that you get people that are drawing conclusions that don't really necessarily make any sense. But you can also, like, that's again one of the things that I brought up in my video that I think is true, which is that, when you have a game that's marketed, when the reason why people latched onto the microtransactions is probably specifically because of the teleport stone. If it wasn't for that, most people probably would have ignored it. Actually, if the game ran well day one and didn't have any issues, we probably wouldn't even be talking about any of this stuff to begin with anyway. You would have some people, and I probably would be the same. I probably would have pointed out, like, why the hell are these microtransactions in my $70 single player game? But regardless, I think that that conversation gets hijacked by a bunch of different, personal politics when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And what ends up happening is that you have people start drawing conclusions like, oh, Hideki Itsuno has been talking about how they wanted to make fast travel, sparse because they want you to be adventuring around, right? It's part of the RPG experience, part of the, Dragon's Dogma 2 experience, which, by the way, it very much is a part of the experience. But when players see that they're selling a teleport point in the store, then they're like, well, wait a minute, was this just a gotcha to get me to try to buy something that you guys are going to sell to me? Are you guys making the game more difficult for me to walk around so that I buy something from you? Is that what's going on here? Because that's the conclusion that players are going to come to. That doesn't necessarily mean that was the intention.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it was the intention of Itsuno. Likely it wasn't, because more times than not, we see that the original vision of the creators is, well, perverted by the publishing team, by the marketing team that come up with all of these different ideas to be able to monetize the game further past the original vision of the director and the team. We see it time and time again. This stuff happens all the time. And this isn't one. I don't think this is one of those situations where that team was pushing on the developers to make the game more difficult so they could sell microtransactions. I don't think that was the case, but we do see it in other games.
Yeah,
we do see it in other games.
Yeah, and I was bringing it up, and I see them keep talking about the new game, and I don't know if they just flat out. I haven't heard or read from Capcom that they just flat out forgot to put it in, but being able to change your vocation kind of, I don't know, I guess could substitute having to start a new game if you're not liking what you're playing. You know what I mean?
But you would just go to a vocation hall to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know.
You can change your vocation anytime you want to.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know if that's why they left the new game out.
Yeah. You said
You
it
know what I mean?
earlier, kind of like Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah,
What's the point of
yeah.
starting a new character if your character can be every class and switch anytime you want to? Hell, I mean, on Final Fantasy 14, I quite literally have macros to be able to switch my character and do an animation when I do it.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where probably they just didn't think about that because they're like, well, why would you need to start a new character? You can literally do anything. Now, the funny thing is that and then plus they're also thinking about the fact that the game has a new game plus. So a lot of the quests and stuff, you'll get a second opportunity to do. So even if you screw one up, you can fix it later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it should be a general expectation to have the ability to delete your save or start a new game. There's just no reason for you not to do that, regardless of whatever kind of idea that they came up with. It's just silly to not have multiple save files, but it's something they carried over from Dragon's Dogma 2. And I do feel like the game does just have like some I don't know. I still need to take more time with the game to be able to like give like fair judgments on some things. Largely the game for me. I'll put it this way. What's my opinion on Dragon's Dogma 2? If it wasn't for all of this extra noise outside of the game, it's an easy 9.
Yeah.
It's an easy 9. It's an easy 9 for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not it ain't for, this is for me. I'm a video game player, okay? My opinion does not need to be your opinion, and they don't need to reflect. We can completely disagree with one another. It's not a Baldur's Gate 3 game for me. Baldur's Gate 3 is a 10. Terraria is a 10. Actually, I'd even probably say Stardew Valley is kind of a 10 as well, actually. There's very few 10s that I have that are out there, okay? Very few 10s. Tiger Heli on NES, that was a 10.
That was not a 10. It's a good game, though.
It was a good game.
God, I used to love that game. Yeah, no, like it's so, like I said, I'm just so torn because I'm enjoying myself thoroughly playing the game, and it's just so disappointing that it's in the state that it's at. You know what I mean? Like it's not as bad as Cyberpunk with what they did, but it's not good. It's not a good look. You know what I mean? Trying to revitalize this series, it's not a good look. It's not good.
No, and here's the thing. This is one of, I'm just gonna like repeat talking points from my video. So one of the things that I brought up is that like they had the opportunity to just take the easy win and basically just follow in the footsteps of Baldur's Gate 3, release a game, no extra bullshit, just drop an absolute bomb on the industry and watch it quake. That's all they had to do. They didn't have to do anything else. No extra BS. Make sure that the game ran well, on day one. At least better than it does. Not to say that Baldur's Gate 3 didn't have issues when it first released either. It definitely had its fair share of issues as well. But they patched it quickly, fast. And here's the thing. We're 3 days now since the release of the game, and there still hasn't been any word of any patches.
Well, the one that they sent to IGN where it says in the future.
Yeah, so they were thinking
future could be.
Yeah, future could be whenever, right? But and here's the thing too. That's the reason why I don't really like that language to begin with, because like it takes so long for AAA studios to get anything done. Yeah, they have so many levels of people that need to okay things before they try to change them and stuff like that. But one of the things that I brought up was just how they could have easily taken the easy win here, and they didn't. And that's what kind of sucks about it, because it was a layup.
Yeah.
This game's a layup. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic game. There's just no reason at all to not have just made sure that the game was working well day one, take the extra time, rather than writing out an apology letter, an apology statement before the game releases. Instead, just wait and make sure the game runs as it needs to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because without this, and this is a really good, comparing and contrasting players' expectations when it comes to games is, I've had a lot of people ask me, they're like, well, Baldur's Gate 3 ran like shit on day one. For some, it was relatively fine on PC. It was mostly consoles that I think had the issue on that time around, right?
Yeah, console.
That's kind of flipped back and forth now for Dragon's Dogma 2. I've heard from a lot of players that the console versions are actually like performing relatively fine. Not perfectly, by the way.
No, it's they're still 30 with dips down to 20s.
Yeah. So And people are like, well, why weren't you upset about the performance of Baldur's Gate 3 when it launched? And this goes back to what I was talking about before, where our expectations and our reaction to certain things depends on the context around that game, around that studio, around how much we're spending, and all of those things. Baldur's Gate 3 was a $60 game. It was $60, so you're already looking. The consumer's already forgiving because they see that you're not following the trend of $70 games, right? You put out a statement saying that there will be no microtransactions in your game because you believe in giving players a fully inclusive experience that doesn't require any money. Just enjoy the game for what it is. You're getting a full game for the box price. And on top of that, it's Larian Studios, which is a studio that not very many people like. Keep in mind, Baldur's Gate 3 sold 15 million copies. I realize that there's tons of us here that are massive fans of like Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. But the vast majority of people that bought Baldur's Gate 3 probably have never even heard of Larian Studios before.
Yeah.
So their expectations for a company that they've never heard of are much lower, right?
Yeah.
So when that game comes out, it has some issues. It's $10 cheaper than most AAA games. It's coming from a studio that you've never heard of, and they don't have any microtransactions. Players are a little bit more forgiving when the game has some issues right when the game first launches.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So with Baldur's Gate 3 though, the majority of their problems were in Act 3.
That's the other thing too. The majority of the issues were in Act 3.
It's not like you started the game and it was jank. You know what I mean? It's just like it was Act 3, fucking 20 plus hours into the game, and then it started having issues. Is a different story to me. Don't get me wrong; it's still not good, but it's different from Go. I mean, you start the first town you go to, the little border town, and you see that your frame rates are just all over the place. So it's it's a different beast. So.
Yeah. So I think that a lot of that stuff has to do with it. I think that there's multiple layers of it, but the more things that players have to be concerned about, and the more pressure you're putting on the consumer, the different levels of expectations we have from studio to studio, from game to game, from release to release. And that's like the major difference between like a Baldur's Gate 3 launch versus not Elden Ring, but Elden Ring did the same thing. Elden Ring launched in a shitty state on PC.
Yep.
But why did the players not care that at that time? Lack of microtransactions, $60 game from software who they're obviously already going to be like, let's be honest, everybody glazes FromSoft. They think they're like the CD prodigies. Project, right? They think they're the prodigies of the I mean, they have been the prodigy of the industry for a while. So like it's just the perspective changes from release to release. And then there's also like some weird added vitriol because players feel like the people that are criticizing the game are doing so unjustifiably, and they feel like it's going to hurt the game's sales, hurt the game's reputation. And guess what? It actually is. And it probably did. I'd be honest with you. I guarantee they lost money on this. And the funny thing is that the things that they did, the things that Capcom did, rushing the game to release, making sure that it wasn't optimized, putting in the microtransactions, not putting in a save file on Steam, absolutely hurt the sales on Steam. For sure it did. And the funny thing is that if they didn't do that, they would have ended up having a higher, they would have been able to release to higher sales within the first week. Except for the problem is that the general conversation around Dragon's Dogma 2 right now isn't about how great the game is. It's about all this extra noise and bullshit that nobody really gives a shit about.
Yeah. And this isn't a bad PC port situation. You know what I mean? Like the way the game's designed of being so CPU based it's across the board. Nothing is it's not running great on anything. So it's not like where God, I'm trying to think. Like Ubisoft's PC port usually shit. Sony's were pretty bad. PC ports. Square Enix PC ports aren't great at launch. You know what I mean? But this right here is, to your point, like pushed out the door to get that money for the fiscal year. I honestly believe that. Once you told me that fact, I was like, yeah, that's kind of what they did. I just, man, like it's so hard because I love the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I actually want to talk
that's
about some of the good stuff that
yeah.
I've been doing, but it's like it just floored, just floored. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe how
Yeah.
like it's just crazy. Like they
Well,
had
you
an
know what?
easy win. It was like a softball pitch. You know what I
It
mean?
really was.
And they whiffed.
The level
They
of
whiffed.
the level of hype and anticipation behind this game, which by the way, the funny thing is it still deserves the level of hype and anticipation because it still largely delivers, if not it delivers on everything that they said it would. It has everything that you thought and hoped would be in the game. It's all there. Even a boudoir. Even a
Oh, Wilhelmina.
Oh,
if you know, you know.
Wilhelmina.
Lady Wilhelmina.
But the only tragic thing about this game is that you can't get Wilhelmina's hair on your pawn.
Yeah, right.
But so like the thing is that it sucks that these have to be the discussions we're having instead of just solely talking about the gameplay in game. Which I mean, obviously we're gonna start doing that like now, basically. But
yeah.
It's just a wide contrast that's just so unnecessary because the game didn't need to have this.
No, it didn't. I don't think the series deserved it.
It makes me. I mean, like in the end, the game is going to get recognized for what it is, which is an absolutely fantastic game. Once all of this noise dies down and people kind of get over it because Capcom hopefully fixes the game relatively quickly. If they don't fix the game quickly and this ends up becoming like a month or too long thing, that's not good. That's my biggest fear. My biggest fear for Dragon's Dogma 2 is that they don't fix it within like a timely
a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, if you wait a month or two to fix this, you're screwed because by that time people are already distracted and and basically what happened with don't get me wrong, they blew up in their initial sales, but they're not going to blow up to the level that the game probably would have if it released in a good state from the beginning because you're going to have so many people that are distracted by Elden Ring DLC. They'll move on.
Yeah. Brian Bordeaux in the chat, his biggest problem is with the gameplay is the pawns are suicidal sometimes. I think my pawns are all just super dumb.
I think my pawns have 3 brain cells combined.
Super dumb.
They're like, when our brain cells combine, and then they just jump off of a cliff into the water.
Yeah. I haven't done it yet, but I'm debating on turning out because you can turn off the pawn chat. You know what I mean? Because I'm just so sick of them saying the same things, the same call outs over and over again.
Yeah.
But then I'm also afraid that I won't hear the hey over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm not going to hear that stuff, so I have to leave it on and hear about how this master usually took a different person to their room every night. Like. I've heard that like a million times, and I'm like, "What are you just wanting to get with me? I don't understand what we're doing here."
That's some sauce.
Yeah, that's some sauce.
Yeah, that's saucy.
That's it's like, hey,
yeah,
but
yeah. So, let's actually talk about Dragon's Dogma outside of all the drama and bullshit, because I think that's probably the part that I'm looking forward to talking about the most. And it's going to be so funny because you're going to have some people that are going to feel like they're going to whiplash because you're going to see me make videos talking about how much I enjoy the game.
Yeah.
Because I really do. Like it's fun. Dude, it's so fun. I'm going to put hundreds of hours into this game. I'm going to. Like I recognize like this is like the exact kind of fantasy game that I want to play, that I've wanted to play. The world is huge. I haven't even explored anything. I've only explored like just the main part of the main continent.
Yeah. It mixes like, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea because like if you really love Dragon's Dogma, I'm not talking bad about it, but like I'm just doing it from my brain. I didn't really play the first one, so for me this game is like a mix of a lot of other games, and it just feels really fun to do. Like it's a little bit Monster Hunter, it's a little bit Skyrim, it's a little it just mixes all these stuff that you like from these other games. And I'm just having so much fun. Like I can just get amazed. Like when we were before the show, when we were playing, I was just fighting some stupid harpies, and they were kind of off to a distance where they couldn't get to them. And I literally was just sprinting down the hill to try to get closer. And my warrior, put their hammer down like that, and then flip me up and up onto a ledge to be able to get them. I mean, that's like super. I wasn't expecting that at all. I didn't even know you could do that. It's like
Yeah,
there's like so much stuff you could do.
the warrior and the fighter both have launch abilities. So if you have either one of them, and make sure they have and make sure they have that ability equipped. Yeah, they can launch characters, on top of monsters, up onto a cliff. They can, all kinds of spots.
Yeah, it was super. I mean, it was just super cool. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, man, there's just so much. There's just so much in this game that's so badass. Have you fighting the Cyclops that's like armored up? He's got like the chainmail over his eye to cover it, and like shoulder pads and stuff.
Bro, I've been fighting Chimera. I've been fighting all kinds of stuff lately. Yeah, I've fought everything. Like, not everything, but I fought some pretty big baddies. I don't think I'm strong enough to take on dragons yet. Like, I maxed out fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But my gear kind of sucks, so like I'm just not doing a whole lot of damage to it.
Mm-hmm.
Once I maxed that out, I switched over to warrior. So I just switched out to warrior last night, actually. And when I switched out to warrior, I do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
I do a lot of damage. I mean, there's a couple moves that, especially like once you get the ability to be able to like time moves, which I think is really cool. When you can start, there's like timing moves that you have for warrior. You can really start just absolutely just smashing targets. It's so good. It's so good. And then plus on top of that, I maxed out mage on my main pawn, and now they switched to sorcerer. So they're going to get really strong too.
Oh, so it's a sword. Okay, I can do Sork. I forgot mage. We're talking about using your pawn. I'll use your pawn now because it won't affect me.
So mage is the one that actually has healing abilities. Sork can't use healing abilities. All they have is damage abilities. I don't even think that Sork even has the ability to like enchant weapons and stuff like that. So in Dragon's Dogma 1, we had the ability to be able to like enchant holy, but I haven't seen I haven't seen the option for that.
So when it's funny to me. All right. So when I was fighting the Chimera the first time, and so I'm playing an archer, so everyone knows, and I'm just sitting there just pegging this line in the face, right? I'm just pegging. He makes that little break sound like when you're hitting a crit spot. You know what I mean? And so
You're what?
It makes like a specific noise when you hit like specific spots, right? Like their points.
You did what to the monster?
I shot him in the face.
That's not how you said it.
What'd I say?
Chat knows.
Okay. I guess if you know, you know.
Continue talking about how you were pegging this monster.
Oh, yes. I was shooting it real hard in the face, okay?
Then I bet you were.
then I noticed like the head was just like dangling, and I'm like, is he asleep? Why is he? Did I kill him? And then I realized, oh, I gotta kill the goat too. So I had to like start shooting the goat. I just thought it was so fun. Like its head was just like flopping around while it was moving. It was like, I thought that's pretty cool. Yeah, he got pegged real hard.
Like, it's just like, oh man, the innuendo there just kind of got a little out of control. Yeah.
But like,
this is just getting worse and worse. I know. Then his head was just bobbing back and forth. I was like, I gotta get the goat too.
So I gotta get that goat. And then the snake was last, and I took that snake. Zion, I had a great time. So yeah, just coming up, I just ran up on a golem where I'm at now, and I don't like those very much.
Your first?
Yep.
Oh, well, if you're playing Archer, you should have like the easiest time. Archers deal with them really quick.
No.
So like I've been watching I've watched Asmongold stream, right? And he's been playing Warrior, and it's just like to kill a golem, you have to climb it. And then you have to attack its weak points. Like that's what you have to do. That's how you're supposed to kill those. So you can't just like stand on the ground and just use like your normal sweeps and attacks and stuff like that. And like the two classes that are probably the best equipped to be able to deal with a golem are going to be an archer, probably later a magic archer, and then a rogue, because rogue slash fighter, because they can just climb onto it and then just pinpoint that one, you know, that one weak spot and just break it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I did with the archer. Just get up there and you just stab an arrow in them, just keep stabbing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like the big monster fights are like, combat in general is just so damn addictive.
Like, it feels good.
This, like, in normal game, normally in other games, I would already be like skipping past lower level monsters. I don't care what level they are. I don't care if it's a goblin, a harpy, you know, saurian or whatever else. Like, it's dead. It's going to die. Like, give me my vocation experience. Give me the loot. Give me like your monster parts. I have so many more monster parts than necessary that I had to actually start like selling a lot of it because I've, you know, been overfilling my inventory with it. Yeah, and it's just like especially like the larger monster fights. It's like you get these little tastes of like mini boss fights all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. You're like, I'm just walking through the wilderness. I'm just trying to go to this quest real quick. And it's like, here's an ogre. Here's a cyclops. Here's a chimera. And I'm like, dude, it's so fun. Because you're just like, oh, I'm going to go do that. Like, and it's also really cool because, especially like if you're in like the Varund area, one of the things that I really like is it kind of turns into how you're able to kind of gauge your progress.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the earlier ones aren't scaling with you or anything like that. Though I have noticed the game will scale, but it scales by dropping in monsters that you don't normally see. So like I got attacked by a minotaur in an area that there was never a minotaur in before. So like the first path that you take from Melve to Varund, like right at the beginning of the game, they're like, oh, let's go to the capital. Well, like on that way, I walked that path again because I just didn't feel like taking it. Like I had just switched vocations, so I wanted to try to kill like smaller monsters to just build up some vocation levels real quick. And I was walking that path, and boom, there's a minotaur, and I'm like, what? That wasn't there last time.
Yeah. You know, I've noticed that there was a spot where I just put myself in a bad situation, and so I'd die, and then I'd be right at that would be my last save point or whatever, and it would just keep fighting. Well, it changed the enemies that were fighting 3 different times until it was just wolves that I was able to get past it. So but yeah, I did end up fighting the minotaur in the city, which was interesting because I was like, oh, okay, well, this is a great place to have this type of fight, frame rate wise. You know what I mean? But it actually it didn't dip. It just stayed. It just stayed at its normal dip. You know what I mean? So yeah, it wasn't too bad. I fought a lich kind of dude.
Those are wild. Yeah, I found that inside of a cave that I went through, and it spawned out of a box. Those liches actually have like really good loot, by the way.
Yeah,
like I got a robe off of it for my like a mage / sorcerer robe, and it's like bar none the best thing that I can find across like most of the villages that I've been able to look at to see if I could find something better.
I got its weapon.
Or at least something a little bit more revealing for my my muscle mommy / sorcerer.
Yeah, I got the weapon off of it, the staff. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me because I have one in my storage, and I think it actually has like a flame on it. I think it actually has like an effect, which looks really cool.
It's called like the chaos something.
Yeah. I think I got this. Yeah, I got the same one.
That was a pretty cool. That was a pretty dope ass fight with the lightning and stuff. I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, all of it's cool.
Yeah, combat and stuff is really cool. I think the world is probably the one thing that I like the most about the game if I had to really pinpoint something. Just because they did this really good job of creating a world in which you genuinely want to really explore. Not in a Ubisoft kind of way where I need to go to these like points of interest and stuff like that. No, a world that I can organically explore. Like, there are times where I'm like, okay, I don't have any timed quests right now. I'm just going to go point myself in a direction and just walk and just start looking at stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to go look. I'm going to go see if I can find something. And then all of a sudden I stumble upon a cave that turns into, you know, like a full-on dungeon. And then, you know, it just keeps going and going. And then there's like a couple mini bosses in there or something like that. I come out with a ton of extra materials and things like that I needed, or a bunch of gold or whatever. You know, like, I do that stuff a lot because it's just so damn fun to do. Yeah. And on top of that, the thing is that, like, regardless of like the discussions that we've had with like performance, when standing still in certain areas, this game is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It reminds me of Elden Ring in a way, in which there's certain places that you can go and just stand still, and it looks like a painting.
Yeah, because it is the way the grass moves and all that. It's a beautiful game. I just moved to a different area that's more Red Rocky, kind of Grand Canyon ish looking, and it looks really nice. I mean, it looks really nice.
Yeah, I haven't got to, like, I'm still in the main area, which is like crazy because I'm like level 33 or something like that. I wonder if there is a max level, or what the max level is. I'm sure there's a max level, but if I remember, it's like the max level in Dragon's Dogma 1 was relatively high. So I don't know what the max level in Dragon's Dogma 2 is going to be.
I watched a video, and the guy was talking because he was complaining about the microtransactions of the RC. And so I guess when you're looking for you're searching for like level of a pawn to get, it goes up to 999. So I imagine that's
level 999 pawn.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And
that's crazy.
Like 30.
I wonder. So I haven't looked it up yet because I really don't want to like spoil myself. But I wonder what the New Game Plus is going to be like. So one of the things that I really liked about Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen was that there was like an end game system built into the game. Basically an endless dungeon, as well as Bitter Black Isle, which is really cool. And I want to see more games that have stuff like that kind of give me like an end game chase, something else for me to do to be able to get like really cool armor, weapons, maybe some extra skills and stuff like that.
Yeah. You know what my favorite part about being an archer is? It is waiting for goblins to run and leap at you, and then you catch them midair with an arrow and they just fall. It's so good. It's so good. It just makes me feel like I'm, you know, like Lord of the Rings. It just feels so good.
I actually genuinely miss playing Fighter right now, because Fighter has this like skyward slash. Basically what you can do is you can just like jump up in midair and then do like a midair somersault slash. And I loved catching harpies with that. Like they'd come in to dive, and I would just jump up in midair and just smash them down to the ground. And it would almost one-hit kill every single time. It was so gratifying. It just feels so good.
Hey, Dark Hollow, has that been like verified that there's an expansion in November, or is it literally just like people talking?
Oh, they'll probably have an expansion for it for sure. Yeah, I would imagine that Capcom is probably I'd imagine that Capcom is going to be supporting the game with more content, because Dark Arisen did really well for I missed a sub over on Twitch, by the way, speaking of chatters. Wings of Pestilence, thank you for the prime. Appreciate that.
By the way, I watched another video, and on the PS3 version of Dragon's Dogma 1, they actually had the almost exact same microtransactions.
Yeah, I know.
In this one.
Yeah.
So
it's not like
it's new.
Yeah, I've had people try to come at me about that, and they're like, "Well, it was in Dragon's Dogma 1," and I'm like, "Okay, that doesn't make it better."
Yeah, no, it's not.
Am I supposed to go, "Oh, it was in the first game"? Oh, never mind. It's not a big deal anymore now. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I can still say I don't want it there.
And screw the cat people, by the way. They're about the rudest sons of bitches.
Depends on the ones that you meet.
They're so rude. They're rude.
It depends on the ones that you meet. Don't be so prejudiced
biased
cat people. Yeah.
Cat people.
The questing in main story is really good. I like a lot of that. You know what the funny thing is that like, and I'm sure like, here's the funny thing: when it comes to narratives, you're gonna have varied opinions on the narrative.
Yeah,
there are people that think that Baldur's Gate 3's narrative is garbage, right? Like, there's people that have those kind of opinions.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I will say is this: I just like the delivery.
Yeah, it's
I like that, and it just very much suits the world, like the political nature of it and stuff like that. It just suits the world. And while I will say that the quests themselves, the main quest so far, isn't like the quests themselves are not interesting.
Yeah,
like the design of the quest design isn't interesting. The story's interesting. But like quest design in the game isn't really all that interesting, if that makes any sense. Some of this, yeah. So narrative, cool. Quest design, meh. Like, eh. Like,
yeah, no, it is. I'm the same way. Like, I think this the plot, the story, even some of the voice acting, it's not this game's strongest points. Terrible. I've played worse. But it's not like that's what I'm playing the game for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just not that enriched in it.
Yeah. It's just like hey, go get me this item, and then you're like, oh, okay, and you just like go get it and bring it back. Like, and there's really nothing like to it, which is really funny because they did the same kind of thing in Dragon's Dogma 1, if I remember, where there's these like stealth quests. There's no stealth. Just go grab it. Just go grab it, you know?
Oh yeah, through the castle part. I literally just sprinted to where I had to go.
Yeah, I sprinted, I grabbed it, I left, I walked away, and then turned it in. So it's just like it's one of those things where like it's so funny that the the two aspects of the game has to excel at, which are gameplay and like adventuring or exploring. Those two things exceed all expectations, just the way that people probably thought it should or hopefully would, and it did. But however, the like quest design is just very there.
Blah. Yeah, it's just blah.
It's only there just to push the narrative forward and unlock more content for you to be able to do. Yeah. That's all it's there. It's just it's there to be able to unlock new areas for you to explore, new monsters to fight, new equipment to get, and stuff like that. The story itself is good. The storytelling is really good. The voice acting's pretty solid. I really like the emergent gameplay. I like not having to like look for quests. I'm sure there are some that you have to look for or that you might stumble upon yourself. But I do like just like being in a busy town and people just come up to me and they're like, "Are you the Arisen? Oh, well, good thing I found you.
Yeah. How did you know?"
Yeah. I'm having bowel issues and I need you to go into the forest and find me this sacred herb. It's the only one that can cure me. You know, like I like that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of cool because it's like, all right, sick. There are some quests that I will say that are designed relatively well. There's I'm not going to spoil anything, so I'm not really going to talk about them specifically. Maybe we'll wait a couple weeks and talk about some of those and stuff like that. But one of the things that I will say is that like overall, just the natural game design is fucking absurd. It's so good.
It is. It's super good. Just man, it scratches so many itches. You know what I mean? I kind of want to. You want to wrap this up so we can get to go back to playing? I mean,
yeah, we'll get to that. We'll
get to that Dragon's Dogma, Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So, one of the other things I'll add to that though is that like loot specifically, I haven't really like, even though I open up everything and pick up everything because I'm a RPG Andy, and that's just something that I can't help but do. One of the things that I like the loot that you find isn't necessarily like, oh, I just found this massive upgrade.
Yeah, for real. It's so like
it's more buying. I buy more stuff. You know what I mean?
You buy more stuff. Yeah. So once you start to travel out of that continent, you're going to start to see big increases in your armor and weapons. So I would save your upgrading materials, your mats. I mean, you can burn them, or actually, I'd probably sell them if I'm being honest with you. I would sell them because once you get to the next continent, it's almost a different material. It's not like collecting.
From what I've seen is that like the upgrades are kind of regional, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, they are.
It's like if I go into like the Beastrin Kingdom, then it's going to be like the armor and stuff that I find and buy there, a lot of that upgrade material is going to come from that place.
Yeah, it 100% is. The armor I just bought is super expensive, but god damn, it looks sick. I would have bought this if it was a skin. It looks so
Yeah.
good. Like the armors and everything looks so good. The only thing I think that's kind of weird is when you like in the menu, like when you're looking at your character in the menu, they look almost pixelized. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, because they're smaller. They're smaller.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It just looks kind of weird, but yeah, I just think the aesthetic of the world and the the way your armor moves, all the animations, everything, it just man, it's just like I said, I wish they would have just came out with a clean game. I'm telling you, this would people would right now would be saying this is game of the year. Had it done that.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
And I don't like this is my feelings. I don't think this game should win game of the year.
No. I
So
think that you know, depending on how your game gets released, should have an impact on whether or not your game gets a nomination for that. Personally, right now, it's Helldivers 2, obviously for me.
okay.
However, the thing is that I will say, chances are that's not going to matter. It's just going to be the Elden Ring DLC. Which I hate that DLC gets nominations, but you guys already know. Like Cyberpunk 2077 was up for nomination last year. Like they didn't get
Yeah.
nominated as a finalist, right? But they do nominate DLC.
Yeah, they do.
So
And
chances are that's what it's going to be. Rebirth as well. Rebirth is a solid contender too.
yeah, I think God, it's so weird. Like if Rebirth came out on PC this year, like
It might.
if it comes out on PC this year, I think it'll win. I because it kind of has the same problem that it's better off than what Dragon's Dogma 2 has, but like its performance on the PS5 isn't super great. You know what I mean?
I
You're
haven't really
getting
not. Maybe it's just I don't know. I haven't had any issues with it.
it's because you're playing on a television with it. Like
Oh yeah.
if you play it
Yeah.
on a monitor, it's muddy. Like it holds a constant frame rate, but it's super muddy. And so like it's not a great like I kind of just wish that like just get rid of third party exclusives. Just do it. It like get over it. Like
Yeah.
everybody should be able to play the game. Let's just go there. But I don't know about upcoming contenders for game of the year. I have no clue. Like we'll just have to see what's like, we got it's not E3 anymore, but Summer's Game Fest, whatever it is, everyone does their little June show and see what's up, see what's going on.
Yeah, I'm really I don't know if there's gonna be any like sneak hits or anything like that. We'll have to just kind of wait to see what's going on there. You know what I mean?
World exclusive.
World
premiere.
Let's see here. So yeah, that's I think that's pretty good for Dragon's Dogma right now.
Yeah.
One of the things that's like really interesting is, and this is it kind of goes back to like what we were kind of talking about before when it comes to like people's expectations with games and stuff like that. But like Helldivers 2, the general consensus opinion for most players is that they just love the damn game, right? Like that's it. Like they're like you really don't hear a whole lot of other noise about the game. Deservedly so, because it's just a shitload of fun, right? But one of the things that I do find like kind of crazy, and I'm kind of surprised that people aren't like, I guess, more upset, is like, so I think right now, even still, I don't know if they fixed it. I can't check Discord right now because we're using Discord to stream, but like the game has had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And like it's still like having issues. So like recently they did an update that that added some new content into the game, which we're going to talk about, some really cool new content and stuff like that they've slid in. But one of the things that they've done is that they've also basically made it where like arc weapons just crash the game. So if you use like an arc thrower or an arc tower, it would just crash.
I was reading that. Yeah.
Yeah. So but the thing is that like people are just like, oh, okay, we're just not going to use arc weapons. Like instead of being like, my God, could you guys get a, like, I'm sure there are those players. There are a few of those people that are like, you know, this is the worst thing ever. I can't believe that they don't, you know, manage the game the way they should, keep it as stable as it needs to be. But for the most part, players are just kind of like, okay, we won't use arc weapons this week.
Yeah. Yeah, like the game, the game loops that fun. You know what I mean? So, yeah, people are like the divers out there in the world. They love this game, like they love it, and they will defend it, and they'll just deal with it. Like I said, do you think that has to do a lot with its price point?
Oh, 100%. $40 game and the amount of content and replayability the game has? Yes, 100%. 100%. People just, they don't care because it's fun. They like just the general fun of the game is the reason why players completely ignore it entirely, because the game outside of those issues, you know, runs relatively well. It looks good. It plays well. It's super fun to play. It's really fun and social with friends, which is another aspect that people really like about it. But then also there's that like level of like being a part of a community that a lot of games don't necessarily get the same way, right? Like there's a lot of like the ideologies and the opinions of players, like a lot of that stuff is kind of out the window when it comes to a game like this. Instead like most of the dialogue is like push the bugs back, kill the bugs, take out the bots, the clankers, you know, let's talk about, you know, this enemy propaganda. You know, what about the you know, people lying about seeing flying enemies and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like most people just completely ignore a lot of the other stuff because it's so fun to engage with the community in a non-negative way. So a lot of players don't even want to bring up these kind of discussions about the, like, you know, usual gamer speech when it comes to you know, when it comes to in-game issues. Though there are some discussions, it's not nearly as prevalent.
Yeah, it's like, but like, what's the point of being like that? Like, that's, to me, it's like, just enjoy what you enjoy. You know what I mean? What's the point of just like hammering down on the same negative bullshit? Like, we started this podcast talking about how disappointed we were, and then we talked about how much we love the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's like there's like, I think it's good. I think it's good that the community is hopefully I get to become a part of it.
Is it weird that I'm like kind of, I don't know how to say this. there's like content creators that I've seen that have quite literally like made their channel off of just being negative about Helldivers 2.
Yeah, well,
this like literal, I'm talking like literal thumbnails of like, this update has ruined Helldivers 2. Arrowhead ruins the game again. This gun sucks. And I'm just like, and I see like how much like interaction that gets, and I'm like, bro, like why would you want that? Like, other than for like monetary reasons.
Yeah,
like,
it's just rage bait. I mean, they're just getting people. They're just getting people who are upset that you are shitting on something that they like, and so they want to see what your
no. Most of the people that are watching that stuff are the people that have that same opinion. So like, there are enough of those people that, you know, that accounts for the most part. But the funny thing is, it's just like, do you not like realize that like only having that kind of dialogue, like only having negative dialogue, only having negative dialogue does reach to players getting like exhausted with a game. You know what I mean? Like, that is what does happen. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, don't have criticisms, because obviously that would go against the entire thing that we have already discussed in this, you know, in this podcast to begin with. But when you make it like your whole personality and your whole drive is to do nothing but, you know, just talk bad about the game, not talk about the things that you like or the things that you enjoy, you know, instead making it something, you know, far more than things actually need to be. It does lead to people getting exhausted with the game.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's constant negative news about something ends up just fatiguing people, even if they're playing it or not. You know what I mean? It's a shame. A lot of people get their ideas and concepts of what a game is from just like YouTube. So if that's what comes up first, because a bunch of people are watching it, that's
the opinion they're gonna take. Oh well,
that's the opinion they're gonna get.
yeah, because like, and the funny thing is, like, I even see like, I don't know, man. I also feel like it's just like the general, like, I'm not gonna deny it. Like when hot drama drops, of course I'm a little interested, right? Like, of course I'm like, well, maybe I should make a video. You know what I mean? Like, I need to hop in on this. You know what I mean? Like,
I got Rit Duel coming up.
let me get a piece of that, right? But at the same time, like, when there's certain things that you do that, like, there's just not, I don't know, personally, I just don't see any reason in having those conversations sometimes, especially when I saw like players are making like a bunch of, recently I had seen that there were some videos that had popped up and some conversations over on Twitter where people were discussing how Helldivers 2 is dying.
Pull it up.
I'm going to.
I'm so sick of it. It's a dead game,
bro.
I'm just so sick of that conversation. It's a dead game. I'm so sick of one side of a certain portion of gamers you like to use Steam as a metric for whether their game's good or not, which makes no sense. They're two different consumer bases.
Yeah. So looking over at the Steam page, 302,000 was the 24-hour peak.
That's pretty good for Steam.
That's pretty good. I think
that's pretty good.
Let's look. It's ranked 3. It's ranked 3 on Steam.
That's pretty good.
And the 2 ranked underneath it is Stardew Valley, which just got a major update, and then Helldivers 2. So if it wasn't for that, it would be Source. It would be the Source engine would be next, right?
Yeah.
And then Rainbow Six Siege and Baldur's Gate 3. Which, to be honest with you, like, I don't really see Helldivers 2 moving out of this top 5 spot, because just the
not
way
if they keep doing what they're doing. Yeah.
Not if they continue to do what they do. So, and the thing is that what I started to see were people that were trying to make they were trying to equate that, if we'd look at like we'll look at the 3-month mark. They're trying to equate that because the game was up here at 450,000, 350,000, that because now it's down here kind of chilling at like 300,000 or so, that, oh, well, the game's in a decline. Well, of course the game's in a decline. It came out over a month ago. Like, you're going to have some natural decay after a game's release, because this right here never lasts. This right here never lasts. Not for games like this. Now, the thing is, and usually what ends up happening is they rock it up if they're doing really well, and then they kind of chill back down, and then as new content comes out, the players kind of come in waves. But I am really interested to see what the average player base for this game ends up sitting at. I don't think it's personally like most live service games, because if you look at like some of the most popular ones, if you look at some of the most popular live service games, so like even say like Counter-Strike, which is just ridiculous, right? 1.5 million players in the last, so crazy. But like even their baseline at normal days is like, they'll peak up into the millions during the hot hours, and then like they have their valley, which is like down to 500,000 players. You know what I mean? So
dead game.
Completely dead game, right? If we use something, because Counter-Strike's kind of just a monster all in itself, it's a completely different beast. But if we look at something like, let's say, like PUBG is a really good example of this. When PUBG came out, PUBG was massive. It was huge.
Yeah.
Popped up to 3.2 million players. Everybody was all over it. However, as that hype fell off and died off, by the next year, it was, a third of what that player base was. And then now you fast forward to today, and it's at 500, 600,000 players. You know what I mean? So trying to look and see oh, the game has lost 21% of its players. Most games lose more than that in the first 30 days.
Yeah, they do. I mean, games you like you said, they just have a natural deterioration. It's just going to have a fall off and then just peaks and valleys like this.
Yeah.
And yes, I will state it again. Using Steam concurrent numbers does not dictate or validate what's happening on consoles. It just doesn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can do a comparison. If it's doing good on Steam, you can obviously think it's doing good over there. That's fine. Look at Pal World, for instance. They sold way more on Steam than they did on console.
Yeah,
Same
but,
thing with Helldivers.
So I wouldn't say so. We couldn't make a comparison in player number.
That's what I'm trying to say.
In
Player
like the exact number, but we could like
deduce.
We could deduce from looking at the data and saying that if a game is declining on Steam, it's likely doing the exact same thing on console.
Yeah.
I could not see it where Steam is going down, where a game is going down on Steam but up on console, unless that game released on console when the game was declining on Steam.
Yeah.
So a really good example of this would be like something like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, right? Concurrent player count on PlayStation will dive, and then when it comes out on PC, it's going to skyrocket. But that doesn't mean that there's a bunch of people playing it on PlayStation. You know what I mean? So like we can do that, but when a game simultaneously releases on both console and PC, then yeah, I think you can use the data, at least the direction of the chart, not necessarily the player numbers, right? Because the problem is we don't get accurate player counts from console to begin with anyway. Right?
No, that's what I'm trying to say is like how many people are playing it. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Anywho.
So but one of the reasons why I think that the game is just going to continue to do well, and I don't think that I don't think that its floor or like whatever its like average player base is going to be, I don't think that it's going to be very low. I don't think it's much lower than what it is. Maybe 100,000 more, 100,000 less. I could easily see this game waving between 150 to 200,000 players. Okay. And the reason why is it's because of the cadence of the game, and then also like how the game is played. It almost has this like MMO kind of feel. And it's not MMO from a character progression point. It's an MMO from a narrative point.
Okay.
Which is true, because players are actively progressing the campaign, the war campaign, and they want to be a part of that. They want to see what's coming next. You know what I mean? Yeah. They want to see what's coming next. And kind of like Dot Hack. Yeah, I think that's actually a really good example of that. So it's one of those situations where, you know, players want to be involved of what's going to be right around the corner. And when you have a game that when it came out, you know, in its first week, it was just, oh, we're fighting bugs and we're fighting bots, and you know it's mostly the same enemies, and we're progressing our war bond, our battle pass, and then all of a sudden the next week comes and they're like, you know, or 2 weeks, actually I guess it was like 2 or 3 weeks after, right? They were like, oh man, there's a massive problem. There's this, you know, mech facility that's under attack, and then we go and free it. Now all of a sudden, bam, mechs are in the game, and then all of a sudden you start hearing rumors of people talking about blue lights in the sky. Somebody saw flying bugs. You know, the CEO of the company's going out and saying, guys, this is fake. This isn't real. What are you talking about? None of that stuff's out there. Nah, man. Nah. None of that stuff's going out. AQ40 is also a really good example of that. And then now all of a sudden, I'm on a map the other night when I hopped on to play the day before or the day of Dragon's Dogma 2's release. I'm doing a Helldive mission with some of the guys in chat, and we come up over this ridge, and there's these massive, towering spore spewers, but they're like hardened, and there's no spores coming out of them. And instead, what's shooting out of them are these flying insects that look like dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? What's going on? Like, I was just playing the game last week. Everything was fine. And the next thing I know, I'm getting my head taken off. The next thing I know, I'm getting my head taken off by this flying monster. And I'm like, bro, what is this? And that much change can happen. And some players are going to look at that and say, oh, they added a new enemy type. So what? And it's just like, yeah, but what's next? Like, that's that. And that's what it leads to. Like, even though it's something that's like relatively small in the scope of like how players consume games, you still go, well, then what's next? And what's happening? Why are they here? Why did they show up now? Why didn't they show up later? You know, what caused this? What are those blue lights in the sky? And like lately, also there's a few planets that you can go on, and you also will see the like the skeletal remains or the fossilized remains of like
those big ass worms. Yeah.
Yes. Of the big worms and stuff like that. Brisket, I don't care if you're confused. A lot of things confuse you. So yeah, I just think that that's really, I think that that's a very, very cool way to be able to like communicate a story, but also keep players involved in playing a game in the first place. Because you start taking it away from the progression and the end game loops and all of those kind of things that players have been used to for a really long time. And instead, what you do is you position it in a way that we're pushing and maintaining a story together. And then also what that does is help to drive like the community driven stuff, which is so cool. You have the unpredictable nature, and then you have the community that's, you know, kind of making their own headcanon of things as well at the same time. It's just awesome.
It is. I mean, like I said, if they keep, like, I don't see them falling off if they keep going at the same pace that they're going now. I mean, eventually, I mean, there's going to be people who get burnt out, you know, who just play so much that you just can't do it anymore.
Now I realize why you're saying that about the Steam numbers. You were just trying to pick a fight with Riskit.
Who, me?
Yeah, you're a troll.
I wasn't picking a fight.
You're trolling.
I'm not trolling.
Why is he in the chat asking if he can use Steam numbers or not?
I don't know why he's asking for permission. I have no idea. He can use whatever he wants.
Oh man. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea for them to be able to use like that kind of narrative to be able to introduce, you know, new content into a game. And I don't know if you've seen clips or have noticed this lately, but one of the things that I just saw this morning is Joel has been dropping vehicles for players.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's super cool. Like that is super cool.
I don't think it's the tank. I don't think it's the tank from the other one. I think
is that all terrain.
Yes, I think it's like the all terrain vehicle. Yeah. It looks like it has a gun on the top, but I'm not really too sure. Do I have to have a PC to use Steam numbers? Yeah, you can use Steam numbers for whatever you want. It's just not a really good like the exact number, like the actual number itself isn't gonna like. I don't really even understand the conversation to begin with, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Anyway. So I just got fucking derailed.
Anyway, the ATV, the 4-seater.
Yeah, thank you. So the ATV is I would imagine they're going to be dropping them relatively soon. I'm wondering if they're going to be doing that with what the hell is it? I wonder if they're going to be doing it with
I don't know if
the new faction that's going to be coming through.
Maybe I just like my only concern with vehicles in that game is the terrain itself and the map size. You know, the maps really aren't all that big if you think about it, because you can cover the whole map on foot. You know what I mean? So I adding vehicles kind of is, I wouldn't say it's worrisome, but I imagine the maps specific for vehicle, there's going to be like maps specific for vehicles. I don't know if that makes sense, because vehicles don't work the same way. They won't work the same way as they do like in Helldivers 1, because it's such a
I don't think it's going to be map. I don't think it's going to be map specific. I don't think so.
You don't think so? I mean, because to me, the way it's set up right now, it seems just seems a little like I don't know. It's concerning because of the map size and the way the terrain's built. You know what I mean?
I see where you're coming from, because you're specifically looking at like some of the maps that you and I had seen before, where it had a really good. Man, what was it? Or not good. It was we had a really bad map design where it had this like tiny little path that was going through two lakes on both sides. So there really wasn't a lot of room for you to be able to like steer a vehicle on either side.
Yeah.
And in areas like that, I could see it being a problem. So I guess it's probably going to be a case by case basis, but it's not going to be like, oh, you can't take a vehicle to here, because the vehicles are going to be stratagems. You're going to be able to call them in. So it doesn't really matter.
That's true. That's true. I just, like I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
Even the just the flatter, more wide open maps, they're not that large. You know what I mean? So, what my concern, like I said, is, so for a normal map, you get a vehicle like that. How much easier is it going to be? You know what I mean? Is it going to take a little bit of the fun out of playing the game a little bit? You know, that type of stuff.
I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's going to be balanced out, obviously, because like it's going to have some. Because I saw somebody in chat bring up, they're like, well, how are they going to, you know, with our other stratagems and stuff like that? Keep in mind that the vehicle has like, you know, combat capabilities. You're able to shoot outside of it. You know what I mean? You're able to. It might have a gun or a cannon or something like that attached to it. So I don't like. You're just going to replace it with something else. So chances are you're going to go, oh well, I'm not going to bring a walker. Instead, I'm going to bring this. And I think that you're probably also going to see that they're going to make it where, because from what I see from the vision of the studio is that they want to make weapons, stratagems, all those kind of things a case by case basis. They want us to go, all right, we're dropping in, we're doing a bug mission, or we're doing a bot mission. It's a defense mission, and since it's defense and we're fighting bots and it's on this difficulty, chances are we're going to run into this, these kind of enemies. Yeah. So let's make sure we bring this, and this. And then the other guys pick all of their stuff too, and then you're trying to coordinate amongst each other to make sure you guys are bringing the right things. And I think you're going to see that kind of balance itself out when vehicles are introduced to the game, because you're going to have the one guy that's going to go, hey, don't worry about it, I'm going to bring the vehicle, and then everybody else is going to bring something else.
Maybe they even limit it to where only one person can take a vehicle, because you wouldn't want to call in 4 of those, right? You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of. I mean, fuck yeah, I know you would.
Let's fucking race. Let's
race. I don't know. I just worry about I say I worry. I think their hardest part for the developers for that studio is going to be balancing it. So,
well, I mean, balance has been probably one of their biggest issues next to like crashes and just like general like tech issues and stuff like that they've been having since they've been doing any updates and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal, especially since it's a PvE game. If it was PvP, it'd be a different story, right?
Yeah, for sure, it'd be a different story. Yeah, you got a point there. I never understood that. Let's say a game like Destiny that has PvE, where they nerf guns in the PvE area because of PvP. That always kind of pissed me off a little bit. So, but this game being strictly PvE, I think, yeah, who cares if it's busted, right?
Yeah. Riskit brings up whether or not the vehicles will break like the time limit. So like lowering the time limit if you take a vehicle with you. That's actually, I mean, that could be a balance thing that they could do, but at the exact same time, the vehicles have limited fuel.
Oh, that is true.
So it's not like you're just always going to be in the truck driving around all over the place. You're probably going to use the vehicles specifically to be able to get, like, for me, if I was bringing a vehicle, I would bring it to be able to get to extract.
Yeah, and probably put a larger cooldown on it if it is fuel based. You know what I mean?
For sure, it's going to have a larger cooldown. Yeah. They'll probably do something. If I had to take a wild guess, they'll do something similar to the mechs, because the mechs you can really only realistically call in maybe, I think, twice, maybe 3 times if you time it the right way. But yeah. So like the fuel is going to play a part in that. The speed in which it travels as well. When I was watching people drive around in it, it looked quick, but not like fast. Not like, oh, we're zooming. You know what I mean? And plus, on top of that,
Wesley says the mech has a 10-minute CD.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is to keep in mind that you kind of brought it up lightly when you were talking about how, maybe some planets you can't use it because of how the map is designed. That is that's also going to lead to like how much travel time you have. So I don't think you're going to be in the mech or in the truck as long as people think, because you're going to have a lot of things to have to navigate around while spending fuel, while fighting things. And then chances are they're going to bring something in that's going to balance the power differential that a vehicle like that may introduce, right? So that's probably where we started seeing maybe our first faction boss.
I can't remember who it was talking about Helldivers. I've got so for y'all in the chat don't know, I'm a supervisor at a warehouse. That's what I do for a living, and I have employees. While I was on nights, I got them super efficient, so they were going home early. I had a dude who was like, he probably only worked 15 hours a week the whole time I was there, just so he could go home and play Helldivers. But I think it was him telling me, he goes that the what is it, the Vile Titan?
Vile Titan, yeah.
He says that's not even the big one.
No, not even close.
So I was like, that's the only one I had seen. And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Okay. On some of the planets, once you go to like some of the like outer worlds for the bugs, you'll start to see the fossilized remains of Hive Lord is what it's called, I think. It's a
Yeah,
big,
I think so. That's what it is.
yeah,
Yeah, Hive Lord.
yeah,
That's what he
Hive
said.
Lord.
Yeah.
It's basically a big tremor.
Big Tremor.
It's from Tremor. It's just one of the big old worms from Tremors.
Tremors.
Everything's
Dude,
inspired by Dune.
Dude, I'm telling you, you're such a fucking Dune hater, dude.
I watched Dune last weekend, the first one.
Did you?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
That was all right.
I fucking hate you so much. Anyway, yeah. So fun story about Tremors. When that movie came out back in the day, you know, the classic with Kevin Bacon and Reba McEntire.
Mhm.
I used to my grandmother. She had an in-ground pool, and I was a little kid. That movie's old as shit. So I dive off the board into the into the deep end, and I would swim my ass off to get to the shallow end because I thought a tremor was gonna like bust through like the deep end part of it and try to get me.
Yeah. No, I'm just giving you shit. Dune was actually pretty good. The one thing that I felt like it ended when it got good.
Yeah, it does. It ended. There was a lot. That whole movie is a lot of
Exposition.
Yeah, it's a lot of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of exposition at the very beginning of the movie, and I understand like they got to do like world building and stuff.
Yeah.
How many movies are they planning on doing?
Dude, I think they're doing 3 because after I watched 2, it kind of leaves it open for 3. So
how many?
But they finished. The
Dune,
part 1,
Dune
part
1
2
and 2
finished. They finished what the original movie was.
The first book.
The first. Well, I'm just going off the cinema. So
okay.
What was shown in the first, like the very first movie?
Yeah.
They finished that in part 1, part 2.
Okay.
But like I said, it looks like it's going a little bit further.
From what I understand, there's 5 books. So.
Well, let's.
So the story does continue. So
we got a new Harry Potter, folks.
Yeah. Dooney Potter.
Dooney Potter.
Dooney Potter. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was good. Special effects and stuff like that were really cool. The actors did a really good job. I actually did Zendaya. Is that what her name is? The girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zendaya,
The one thing or Zendaya or whatever, I always like cracked the joke. I was like, how much money did she get paid to actually not even really be in the movie?
Oh, no shit.
You know what I mean? Because I'm just like sitting there and I'm like the only thing you see of her for like 75, 80, probably more than that, like 90% of the movie. 90% of the movie.
She's only in 10 minutes of the film.
90% of the movie is just her dramatically looking into the camera every few minutes.
With the wind blowing. Yeah.
You're the one. You can do it, Luke. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, and you know this chick got paid, and I'm like,
oh, she got paid.
Yeah, you got paid for sure. Yeah,
got paid.
But yeah, so I'm really interested.
The heart plug scene was, I think it's in part 2.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see where they're going to be going with the game. What I'm kind of hoping is that when they do a new faction introduction, that it also like introduces specifically for me, I just want to see new mission structures, more different things for us to do.
Yeah.
I really I like in Helldivers 2 when we did the Terminide. I don't think you took part in. Did you do any of the Termicide control mission or whatever it was? Yeah, that's what it's called.
It fucking gets me every time. Termicide.
Yeah, so when they did the Termicide one, they basically had a very special mission structure just for doing that. I want to see more stuff like that. I like that, rather than, I think some of the quick missions are cool. Being able to drop in and do something like that that's very focused. Drop in, drop out kind of stuff. I think that's really cool to have some stuff like that. But I definitely want to see some more mission structures in the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can pull off.
Well, that's the thing though. It's like, how long can the same kind of game type loops keep going? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can only shoot so many bugs, right? So they're gonna have to figure out something. And you said earlier that they're adding another faction coming in. I think that'll be a little bit of an adrenaline shot to the heart. Which is good. But how you kill stuff and how, like, what you're supposed to be doing, yeah, they need to change that. I think like the freeing the people might be one of the worst things ever.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
of
everyone.
course. Because
It's like it's so bad.
sorry, you guys are sort of like a random call out because I pulled something up in the background. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about today is, did you get the chance to see GameSpot's interview with Sven Vinka?
I did.
Okay, did you watch the whole thing?
No, I read it. I read all of the quotes from it.
Oh, you read the quotes from it. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
So like it was a relatively like candid conversation. I've seen a lot of different people talking about it. I've seen a couple videos pop up, both Hard FPS, a few other people as well. I haven't made a video on it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But one of the things that kind of popped up from this conversation were two things specifically. One is that there is no Baldur's Gate 4. There is not going to be a... Oh, shit, I didn't mean to move that whole thing. There's not a Baldur's Gate 4. There's not a DLC. No, there's not going to be any DLC for the game. And also, Larian Studios is moving away from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yep.
Those were the main talking points going out from there.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast now own those characters.
Well, didn't they own them before, or did they buy them?
I don't know. I don't know what the deal is on that. Normally, since they bought the licensing from them,
Yeah.
I think Wizards of the Coast had to do a little magic to own them. So they're going to be a canon. So you'll see what they do with those characters.
Oh yeah,
Probably
that's a really good
nothing.
point. Yeah, chances are they're going to canonize them, right? They'll actually put them
Yep.
into the D&D books and stuff like that. So that'll be really interesting. I know that
Yep.
Wizards of the Coast already put out some products that featured the characters.
Mhm.
I saw somebody made like a Zevlor card for, I think,
That's kind of cool.
for something, for Magic maybe. I can't remember. So there's that. But there are some people that are really sad and upset about it. But personally, for me, like the thing is that like keep in mind the reason why this game did as well as it did is specifically because they went out and this is the game that they wanted to make. This is the idea that they had. And instead of doing what many, I think is like kind of a pitfall for many AAA studios nowadays, for just studios in general, is far too many times are they playing it safe. And they would just immediately, like any other AAA studio would have came out with Baldur's Gate 3, had the level of success of Baldur's Gate 3 and said, all right, it's time to get to work on Baldur's Gate 4, and then Baldur's Gate 5, and then Baldur's Gate 6. You know what I mean? I'm looking at this from the perspective of an EA, an Activision, a Ubisoft, all those kind of companies, right? Those are the things that they would typically do because they would just try to milk the cow until the cow has no milk, right?
Yep.
So
beat that drum why it's
exactly
going. Yeah.
exactly. They'd be pumping out DLC. They would, we're gonna do quarterly DLC and
Well,
blah, 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 you know what I mean?
in all fairness, most games because they already know that they're going to be going into like that kind of cycle, they will they'll just purposely cut out content. They're already working on DLC at the same time that they're working on the game.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the only way you get DLC in 3 months after the game comes out.
Yeah. So, but part of this whole conversation when they're kind of going back and forth and they're talking about it and he's saying the things that they want to do and what they're looking to do in the future, was, they're doing something original. They're doing something themselves. There was no discussion of IP. The only thing they could say is that it's not D&D and it's not Baldur's Gate 3. There was somebody else that I saw. I don't know if it's a rumor. Somebody said it's not going to be Divinity Original Sin 3.
I don't know what it's going to be. That's why, I mean, me and you were talking about it. Like that's kind of like maybe they're just tired of that genre of just high fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I could see them going and doing something sci-fi. To be honest, you know what I mean? Like I could see them. Like the thing is that with Larian, one of the things that they really like to do is they want to make sure that they try to stay fresh and stay on their toes. They don't want to do something that's going to undermine their creative, their creative vision, their creative fire more than it is anything else. And I think this is a really good choice for them to just step away from Baldur's Gate. Let it, they did what they did. The game's in this, they talked about it. The game sold over, 15 million copies. So the game's a massive success. even more successful than most of the games released last year.
Yeah. The only thing that I think beat it were Diablo and Hogwarts.
Hogwarts, yeah, and yeah. Did Diablo
I,
beat it though,
I don't.
or maybe they might have tied? Honestly,
yeah, I don't know if Diablo did.
they might have tied. Yeah.
But I think what people are like glossing over what he said was the main reason they pulled the plug on the DLC was because the team's heart wasn't in it.
Yeah.
They did like they were done. They were like
Yeah.
they felt it
Now,
like that's awesome. That means you don't get like a just a piecemeal DLC or whatever. So I mean that's honest and I appreciate the just knowing when something like it's not going to be good, so let's just not.
yes. Yes. So one of the other things that I took from it as well is the fact that so I see somebody else even said that Wolfhard FPS said that it's not going to be Divinity Original Sin 3, which I think that's fine. It does make me question, like, what the fuck are they going to do? Because he already said that they want like their next release to be within 4 years.
No, there's no way.
He said the only reason why Baldur's Gate 3 took 6 was because of the fact that because of COVID and then the war.
Oh, that's right.
He's like,
right.
if it wasn't for those two things, they wouldn't be they would have been able to come out with a game.
Do you
faster.
think it's still going to be? Still think it's going to be a CRPG?
I don't know what they'll do, to be honest. Maybe they do want to stretch their maybe they want to stretch their legs and try something else. Maybe they've made an action game in the past. They made Dragon Commander, right? Or not Dragon Commander. Draco
Malfoy.
Yeah, sure. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now.
Potter.
Oh my god. Jeez. So I don't really know exactly what they're going to do with that, but one of the things that he did bring up that I thought was really interesting was he was like, one of the biggest benefits of Baldur's Gate 3 is that we grew our studios significantly. They made a lot of money, and because of that, they've been able to hold on to everybody that they picked up through the development of Baldur's Gate 3. And that means that he wants people to look forward to their next project, because their next project is going to be even
something
more
new.
Yeah.
Something
well,
new.
No. Their next project is going to be even more ambitious than Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. Well,
what does that even mean?
Yeah. I mean, he's almost being as cryptic as like what's his name? God damn it, Metal Gear guy.
Kojima.
Kojima. You know what I mean? Where they're just not as cryptic. I mean, he'll take a picture of a turd in a toilet and then like post it, and people like, oh, I get it. It's Snake Eater, something stupid like that. But yeah, no, like something new. Does that mean it's not like a like a lot of people I saw bring up like Wing Commander or this or that, or maybe it's not a licensed franchise. Maybe it's something a whole new IP for them, which I think would be kind of cool too.
Yeah. Will their next project be good though? Probably better than anything Xbox can put out. So I'm really interested to see what they end up doing, to be honest.
Yeah. Because
like, especially with how much they've grown their teams, because now they have, I think, 4 or 5 studios. 4 or 5 locations they're in, because they have their studio in Ghent, they have the one in Ireland, they have another one in South America, another one in Canada, and then another one maybe in Indonesia or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah,
so they're all over the place. They're all over the place. So I'm really interested to see what exactly they can churn out, especially with like they have massively increased their resources.
I just hope it's not like a Civilization type game. I just hope it's nothing like that. Like, I'm hoping it's just like selfish me. I want them to make another CRPG. What I want them to make is Divinity 3, but like I just want like another solid like they're almost like I feel like they're kind of in the same spot like Valve was with Half-Life 2. You know what I mean? Like,
okay,
it's gonna be hard to beat Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, I mean, you can sit there and say that,
it
like,
almost feels like the best thing they could do. Like, I like where you're going with this, because it feels like the best thing they could do is something so wildly different that you can't compare it to Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, Yeah, that's why. I get it, but like, if they make a CRPG, it's going to be like it's going to be apples to apples. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, speaking of, okay, let's see, Senua 2. I think Senua 2, honestly, it looks like a really, really cool like tech demo type game. And I think that's probably going to be indicative of the price of it. I think it's $30 or $40. Um, it looks really sharp, so I'll check it out on Game Pass when it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping they do something sci-fi, because I think it'd be really interesting to see them do
I
something
love
that's
sci-fi, so I'd be down for it.
I think it'd be cool to see them do something that's like wildly different than what they've done before.
Yeah.
But like also probably staying still within scope of what they're kind of used to. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like part
What if
of
they-
me wants them to make another CRPG because I really like CRPGs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like what if they make like the Mass Effect of CRPGs? You know what I mean? Like when Mass Effect was good, like Mass Effect 2.
You know what that brings up? That brings up the other thing that he said at the very end in their discussion, which he said, well, there's a dream of the RPG that we want to make. And he called it like the RPG to end all RPGs, like the biggest RPG ever made. And he's like, but the technology's not there yet. And I'm like, what technology? What do you need? What can't be done? What have you guys imagined that can't be done right now?
We can rebuild him.
Yeah, like that was like a really interesting quote to hear from him. I was like, you know, they're talking about how they want to dwarf all RPGs. That's what it is. We want to make a RPG that dwarfs all other RPGs. I want to make the biggest one that's ever been made. Yeah, the one to rule them all. Yeah. So, and he's like, but the technology's just not there yet. And I would imagine probably a lot of that has to do with, you know, a lot of people give AI specifically a whole lot of flack. But as AI technology expands, the biggest benefit that game developers are going to have is how much it's going to speed up development time in general. And
yeah, well, it's not just that. I mean, we were talking about it with my new GPU. I think hardware is going to get to a certain point, and AI generation is what's helping smooth a lot of stuff out.
Mhm.
You're not having to buy a 4090 specifically to just do that. And so as software starts to come along with the AI generation for your frame generation and stuff like that, it's going to make development so much easier on these guys instead of having to narrow down their scope to just try to get the game to function right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think AI, like, okay, I get it. AI and art, yeah, it kind of sucks. But like AI as in compute thinking is it's pretty good. And I think that's kind of where we're going.
And it's one of those conversations that I go back to. Is it's not necessarily the tool, it's whose hands the tool is in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
sure.
If it's in the hands of these like incredibly creative people that have like, you know, really good ideas or really good ways to be able to utilize this technology and leverage it to be able to make more content at a faster rate and be able to make it within budget and things like that, then obviously it's going to be used for the best, you know, the best purpose possible. And you know, you look specifically at a game like, you know, you look at Larian Studios, and you already know like their heart and mind is in the right place, right? Like it lays with the consumer, and it lays with making a really good game that they want to play. Yep. And if they can leverage that kind of technology to be able to, you know, I don't know, make a world or a experience that's far more expansive than anything they've ever made before, then that's what we're probably looking at. That's probably what they're trying to aim to do. Because it's funny that you bring up something like that, because it's just like there probably is, you know, whether or not it's Sven's vision, but I guarantee somebody out there has a vision for making a game that's like Mass Effect, but every planet is a Mass Effect.
Yeah, right.
Right? You know what I mean? Like they're like, you know, basically what people thought Starfield was going to be but wasn't. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, what Starfield was marketed and wasn't.
Yeah. So like the idea that like there is you know, a massive amount of planets, a game that you basically could just keep playing and playing and playing and never really run out of things to do. Personally, whether or not a game like that is even necessary, I don't know, because that sounds more like an MMO than anything else. You know what I mean? But yeah,
like I just like, just with the I think software is going to be like, I think even Microsoft, when they talked about their newest like their next console that they're going to talk about this summer or winter or whatever. They were talking about. I think it's going to end up being on the software side of things. I was even reading that they were because they've invested a f ton of money into AI. So like all of these companies are doing that.
Mhm.
Now, when you have a game like Dragon's Dogma, which I was telling you about it, so in its files, if you go up the files, it actually has DLSS 3.5 in the files, like all of the codings there for it, right?
Yeah.
But the game isn't utilizing it because it's CPU bound, and it's not gonna make a difference on the.
Yeah.
It might help smooth out the frame rate quite a bit, but it'll in the long run you're gonna just end up losing resolution on it, right? So you're not going to be able to get that frame generation and stuff like that, which actually helps smooth out a lot of stuff. Having my son show me like all the different settings and shit for these 40 series cards has like literally changed my mind on just gaming in general. Like the developers have to use the tools, right? They have to choose to use them, and so if they choose not to, that's up to them. And like with Dragon's Dogma, they chose not to use either FSR or I think you can get DLSS super sampling or super resolution, but or super rendering, but that's it. But yeah, I think it is going to make it a lot faster. I'm just hoping not every game's just going to be UE5. That's all I hope. It's just like UE5 can. I mean, it's a good.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of that technology just gets adapted into other games and their engines, right? Because there's a lot of companies that have their own engines and they base their own engines off of like other engines and like derivative of and things like that. You know what I mean? A lot of homebrew engines are really good. Well, like I know there's a lot of people that are high on something like Unreal Engine 5. I mean, largely I think that the Unreal or not Unreal, the Resident Evil engine's pretty good. Like visually it looks good at least. Whether or not
yeah, it's a really good engine, guys. Go buy the game.
Well, yeah, whether or not it's really good at optimizing certain environments is a completely different story. But yeah, we'll have to wait to kind of see that kind of stuff.
I mean, Pal World was a huge benefit from Unreal Engine 5. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And I think Ashes of Creation, even though it's not out yet, it's switched over to Unreal 5. So we'll see what it does.
The problem is,
I know it helps with optimization. I know it does help. It does help.
You know what the worst part is that like with all these tools and especially with something like Unreal Engine 5, this is a while ago, but like I saw it. Asmongold posted this video talking about like how there's going to be like a prevalence of like fake games, if that makes sense. Like you're going to see more of these Unreal Engine tech demo games, right? Where people are just buying store assets and flipping it for, making players believe that it's a whole game or something like that.
You get the early access and they'll never do a 1.0. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that like we're seeing more of that day by day. And it's also something that I'm kind of afraid because you brought up Ashes of Creation, it makes me feel like it's just going to it's going to ruin the MMO genre. Because there's so many games that come out that want to tag MMO onto the title. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And almost all of those end up being Unreal Engine 5 games that they're just buying a bunch of store assets to make a trailer to get people to fund a Kickstarter or to, buy an early access and then never actually, do anything with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I'm wondering if something like that could actually ruin an entire genre, because I feel like across the board, people don't really give a lot of shits about MMOs.
No, they don't. The
people that play them love them, but
there's such a commitment and time sink that a lot of people like God dang, we talked about this probably 3 or 4 podcasts ago. Like the gamers are aging, and the younger gamers coming up aren't playing those type of games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like it's eventually going to die off if they can't find one or they can't create one that grabs that younger group, that younger generation to start to build it again. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right. You're 100% right on that.
Yeah. I'm not really, I don't know, man. I guess I'm just trying to figure out exactly what the impact of a lot of this stuff is going to be. I have no idea. I think we're just going to have to kind of wait and see and then just kind of go from there, to be honest.
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, we talked about this a little bit. There's a lot of things going on in the industry. Just like look at and I'm not going to really get into it, but look what happened with Kotaku, right? Like there's an industry shift, and um, so we'll see if we're going to hit a reset button, so to speak, on the industry, and community wise, uh, with where we're headed, and kind of quelch down some of this bullcrap games. Like I feel, man, like this generation. I say this generation as a PC gamer, um, but this generation of games, which you have to take into account, the consoles, and this isn't a console thing. I'm not talking about consoles, but I think overall has been fairly disappointing with the outings. Um, there's been some great games, uh, but for as a whole, it's just not as good as it could have been. And I almost want to say it's almost the fault of the companies that like oversold the products that they were selling.
Yeah.
But just like the business part of it, of how companies have monetized everything and commoditized everything, it's just I'm kind of hoping that there's this breaking point where we just kind of even out and we just start getting great games again all the time. Like the 360 era was fantastic. Like it was fantastic. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Oh, and Night.
and
What? I'm like confused. You guys are so lame. If there's one thing that I've learned over the past decade, it's pre-ordering a game based on a 5-minute clip will never bite me in the ass. Well, I mean that's you. That's also me too. Like I don't pre-order a game off of a 5-minute clip, but I don't understand what that has to do with us. Like if are you just regularly talking about the people that buy that kind of stuff to begin with? I think the biggest the reason why this becomes an issue is because while there is a crowd of people, I think a really good I'm going to preface this with something. So one of the things that I talked about, like one of the issues with Dragon's Dogma 2 was like, for a lot of players have the context that like the items that Dragon's Dogma 2 is selling as DLC isn't necessary because you can get those items in the game. A lot of players have that necessary context, right?
yeah.
However, not all consumers have that context going into a game. So you are going to have people that are going to buy those things because they don't know or realize, because they just see the stuff and they go, okay, I'm going to buy it. The problem is like those guys, I have to say it like this, they're dumb and they're vulnerable and they don't do their research and they waste their money. But the problem is that the more people that do that, the more prevalent those issues become. So like we end up getting this weird impasse where we're going to start to see these games that are taking advantage of those people. And while you are going to have those folks that are going to say, screw them, they're stupid, what does it matter to me? Well, the problem is that if you don't have anybody to step in and actually try to protect those that are, well, a little bit more vulnerable than others, then, well, they just continue to get raked over the coals. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, you can blame it on them.
Extreme.
That's like, there are certain things that you can do for sure that I think that will, regardless, probably, like, there are going to be people that are out there, they're going to make dumbass purchases, undoubtedly. It's people's responsibility what they do with their money. But there are things that are in place, guardrails that are in place that should be in place to be able to protect consumers. And one of the biggest issues with a lot of this Unreal Engine 5 stuff is that, as this technology becomes more available to people and because it becomes easier for people to be able to make trailers and stuff like that, especially when we're talking like Kickstarters and things like that, especially early access games. That's the one that's the really trippy one, right? Because there's a lot of games that are out there that people have not actually finished the end product. We talked about this a couple streams ago.
Yeah.
And and you're going to have some stuff like that happen where you're going to have some of these games roll out, and who are you holding responsible for that kind of stuff? As this technology becomes more available, more people will have access to make games that aren't real to rip people off.
Yep.
And people that are going to be smarter than the developers of The Day Before, or smarter than Quinfall or whoever like that, they're going to be out there and they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to, basically be out there stealing people's money. And, who do we look to be able to protect those people?
Yeah, well, so first thing is a lot of people are going to point the finger at the stores, right? The stores need to be vetting who's selling on their platform. which I kind of agree with. I think stores are responsible for the quality of products that they sell.
Yeah.
So Steam does a okay job with it. I mean, there is a lot of, weird stuff out there. But for the most part, like with PlayStation, they where they shut down Cyberpunk, you know what I mean? Wouldn't sell it on their store until they fixed the game or got it playable, which was commendable at that part. But yeah, the stores I think are going to have to vet. You're going to have to vet their whoever's selling on their store better. I mean, that's what happened in the 80s when you had that crash, and then Nintendo came up with their gold seal standard, right?
Yeah.
To bring it back. So you had to have some, because what's going to end up happening is consumers are going to lose all faith if it's as big of a problem as you're saying.
Yeah, and market shifts do happen because of that kind of stuff. I think that in a lot of regards, people have a relatively people have a very doomer outlook on like the future of gaming. $150 games filled with microtransactions. It's too late. We already bought the horse mount. I see what you're saying, but at the same time, like markets do respond. And one of the things that I really believe is that the more that we support products that are pro-consumer, like the more the market starts to shift towards that stuff. Simple as that. When your Baldur's Gate 3 is when your Baldur's Gate 3 is selling $15 million, $15 million. When your Baldur's Gate 3 is selling 15 million copies, the company does it within budget and didn't have microtransactions and is lauded as one of the greatest games ever made because people loved it so damn much. Yes, you are going to have a market shift that is going to look at that and go, oh, and while, yeah, it's not going to, maybe it's not Activision, maybe it's not EA or Ubisoft, but it definitely is going to be some other independent studios that maybe we're thinking about doing something a little bit more similarly to, what those other companies do. You know what? Actually, a really good example of this that proves that kind of doomer mentality wrong is Last Epoch.
Okay.
So Last Epoch, when they first introduced their store, right, their microtransaction store, the players were like, the in-game items aren't good looking enough to be able to
justify a purchase. Yeah.
No. The in-game items aren't good looking enough to be able to, give us the alternative option of just playing the game. So then they focused on, increasing the fidelity and making the game look better, but also making armor and stuff look better as well. And then one of the other things they brought up too was the actual monetization practice, especially the part where they were like, oh, you're making us buy this digital currency, but that digital currency isn't a one-to-one with our actual currency. It was doing the stuff where it was like, oh, this helmet is 500, but you can only buy stuff in packages. You can only buy the currency in 3, 600, and 1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
And the players pushed back. And what was the response of Last Epoch? They changed it. Yeah. So the thing is that you do see this on the indie level. You do see it on the, AA, single A, on that side of it. Yeah, AAA probably not. No, there's nothing. But the only thing they're going to do is just continue to shovel out the same commercial product that exists to take advantage of the people that don't have the context of knowing that they can just go look somewhere else for something else. Simple as that.
I don't know why it now just dawned on me. I think it was just a perfect storm of all the different ideas. Why do you think all those developers came out and said to not make Baldur's Gate 3 the standard? Why do you think they were fighting to not have it be the standard?
Yeah, exactly. Because it was $60 and didn't have any microtransactions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, hey, no, this isn't the standard.
And on top of that, it had like 4 times the amount of game that they released in their game, and most of the stuff in it was original and didn't have the same kind of washed out mechanics that 90% of AAA games have had over the last few years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like let's be honest. Like it was an original product that most of the industry would have never thought would have succeeded in the way that it did. It was $60 and it didn't have any microtransactions. It wasn't seasonal. It wasn't a. Look at the words of WB. They just had they just had Suicide Squad kills the Justice League fail. Right?
Pull up the numbers on Suicide Squad. I just want to see where it's at today.
It's 400 players, 200 players probably. I have no idea. It's not really worth looking it up, but Sure, out of curiosity. I always love
I
love to see shit games fail.
I love to see this game just get fucking kicked in the teeth.
Oh, it was close. 600 players online.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, pretty good. Good job.
That's about 599 more than I thought that would be.
So yeah. And the funny thing is that the washed out, because it used to be the standard, well thought out about tested games used to be by default. It was asking them to be lazy. Kind of confused on exactly where. I think what you're trying to say is that because people keep buying this stuff, that it keeps happening. But the problem is, like, you're never. That's the thing. The conversation of saying that there's nothing we can do about it because if we don't stop buying it, that's the only way that it's going to change. Well, nobody's ever going to stop buying stuff. Simple as that. Nobody's going to nobody's going to not buy this stuff. The only way that they're not going to buy stuff is if the games suck in comparison to other games.
Yeah.
And that's happening.
Yeah.
That's happening. That's quite literally happening.
Yeah. I mean, what's sad about just the Suicide Squad is that it comes from a studio that was lauded for superhero game. You know what I mean? That would be like Insomniac putting out Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty.
Like, the funny thing is that there's a lot of folks that are out there that are like, no, it's impossible. It can't heal. And it's just like, I don't think people really recognize that the more how the hell fuck do I explain this the best way I can? The more you become focused on the commoditization of your products, the further you get away from the heart and soul of what the product is in the first place. So what ends up happening is that you end up having a lesser version of the product, which is what people were wanting to buy to begin with. Yeah. And people are going to see other products that are out there. If we're talking about video games, you know, you look at Baldur's Gate 3, you look at the sales that Helldivers 2 put out, you look at the sales of even games like Enshrouded did well. I'm trying to think. Pal World blew up, right?
Yeah, Pal World.
These games are offering experiences that players have genuinely wanted, and because some of these other studios that are normally lauded for making high quality products in the past, but have, as you said, been basically trained to be able to, make lesser products because they've been, promoted to do so by people continuing to buy them.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that
it's like I think the analogy that I like the most, that I just made up in my head right this second, is that independent studios are like those dive diners. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of looks shitty, but the food's really good. Yeah. And like AAA is McDonald's, to where they just slap the burger hanging off the bun. Maybe you get a pickle, you get like 3 of those weird onions, and then when they throw the wrapper on, the cheese is on top of the bun instead of in the sandwich. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's so like the quality of that stuff continues to go down, and it becomes a lesser and lesser product. You have people memeing on it and shit like that, and you're going to have people that are going to start turning to other places. There's always going to be a McDonald's.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a McDonald's. So, as simple as that. That's basically my take on that kind of stuff. But usually this is the part of the show where if you guys have any questions directly for us that you want to go ahead and ask, you guys can ask just at Legendary Drops. If you guys have a question, we'll take a couple minutes to talk to you guys directly, and then we'll call it a day. I want to play a little bit more Dragon's Dogma, and I'm also getting I'm getting hungry. So is the cat too. That's why he showed up.
Yeah. Is he scratching your face yet?
No, I just sit in my lap. I was like wondering this morning because I woke up like the cat woke me up, and it was like all over me, and I'm like, what is your problem? And I'm like, I'm trying to go back to sleep. Go away. And I'm like, fine. I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, oh, he's hungry, and I realized he didn't have any. He ate all of his food. I was like, oh,
no risk it. Final Fantasy isn't McDonald's, but Halo is.
That's actually really good. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, a product that slowly becomes a shadow of itself. Yeah. A shadow of what it used to be. Yeah.
Yep. It's a shell.
When it comes to Halo specifically,
Master Chief's armor is completely empty. It's just a shell.
When it comes to Halo specifically, like that's like the most frustrating thing when it comes to Xbox.
Isn't it?
It's like, how do you guys fumble the bag that hard for that long and still continue to give it to the exact same studio over and over again?
But it's good now.
It's the definition of insanity. I'm
I
sure
knew
they'll
he was
get
gonna,
it next time.
I knew he was going to type it. I said it before he typed it. But it's good now. Okay, cool. So Cyberpunk, but guess what? 3 years ago, it fucking sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, even though Halo is like decent to play now, and that players aren't really like necessarily complaining about the state that the game is in, is it as good as Halo 3? Is it as good as, you know, Reach, ODST? No. Like
At Legendary Drops, Owen Knight asks, I guess this goes to the movie industry as well. Are we as a society swinging back to forcing a pro-consumer attitude? We've made it so easy for them to profit. That's a tough question.
I mean, it should always be a pro-consumer attitude in some way. Like I don't think that we're forcing it. I think that the industry is just adapting to itself, because what they're seeing is that you have studios that are out there that are seeing customer sentiment starts to shift away from, you know, here's the thing. Do people say anything good about Ubisoft anymore? No. So that means that, and here's the funny thing is, how many studios do you see that are out there that are trying to make games like Ubisoft?
Just think about it this way. It took 7 of Ubisoft studios to make Skull and Bone.
Yeah. So I do think in a way that, yeah, there probably is a shift, but I don't think we're forcing it necessarily. I think that it's actually just the industry itself. The industry itself that's like shifting on its own, because like that's just what it kind of does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tyler, thank you for the $4.99. Keep it up. Thank you.
Let's see. Risk It for the Biscuit asks, serious question. Did you give your take on SBI, Sweet Baby Inc? If not, why not? And would you give your take now?
I did, actually. I've given my take on it on multiple times, to be honest with you. Specifically, the things that I said is that if studios lack the creativity and ability to be able to pull off their narratives on their own and require a studio or require an agency like that to come in, then that already kind of shows that they have a lack of direction to begin with. But, you know, outside of that, like trying to get into some like identity politics kind of thing, I'm not really interested in that kind of shit. I just think that players have a right to know who's writing for their games. It's not a soft take. It's a fucking hard take. You have the you have the ability to know who's making your games. I had somebody push back on me about that. They're like, you don't need to know who's making your games. What are you talking about? They have a fucking credits section in every video game. You know who wrote it. You know who wrote the story. You know who's animating it. You know who's directing it and stuff like that. Players have a right to know who's working on the game. Simple as that. You know, that's the take. I don't really care about like whether or not they do or don't make good games or whatever. I don't fucking pay attention to it. That, and I don't think I've ever actually even played a game outside of God of War Ragnarok that they apparently ever had anything to do with. So what? Yeah, I don't. Yeah. So like, what am I supposed to have a hard take on something that I haven't had any fucking experience with? You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. That's the only take. That's all I got.
That's it. That's it.
I gotta figure out what to eat for dinner tonight.
Meat. All right. Neurosis 51. I'm worried about MH Wilds, Monster Hunter Wilds, after all the MTX Capcom has done after Monster Hunter World in their game. Do you think it'll be too anti-consumer? I'm thinking they'll do more content stripping.
I don't think they did any content stripping from Dragon's Dogma 2.
No, but I wonder if are you Neurosis? Are you asking about like the other Monster Hunter games that you felt that they did content stripping from?
So they kind of did with Monster Hunter Monster Hunter World and Rise. Specifically with the layered armor system, where they made that kind of like the only way that you could even really do anything with it is by you know, paying for layered armor. So if you want to transmog, you had to transmog through like a lot of like paid skins and stuff like that. Outside of trying to think what else. I don't think like I mean they did like not put all of their monsters into the game, into the original ones, right?
Yeah.
So, but then they released a bunch more in a DLC. So, I don't know.
Okay,
Monster Hunter Rise content stripped event.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's shiesty.
Yeah, that's shiesty. I don't know, man. I don't know.
$550 of microtransactions.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
In Monster Hunter Rise, if I'm not mistaken, so like a lot of the seasonal armor and event armor and stuff like that, you can, after the event passes, you can go back and buy that stuff as microtransactions. It's scummy as fuck. It's so stupid. If I remember,
Christ.
and also if I remember, Monster Hunter World didn't even have that. I think Monster Hunter World, you could still go back and do the seasonal stuff if you wanted to. But yeah, they had decoration statues and handler outfits and stuff like that. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Good Lord, that's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. Sweet Baby Ink is a joke, and gamers should avoid it. Avoid anything they touch. That's a take. Well, I mean, my point is that I haven't touched anything of theirs. I don't really have necessarily opinion on it. Now, if you're talking about like the personal shit, like the dumbass shit they did, where they like tried to get individual, well, not canceled. They literally tried to get somebody banned from Steam. Like they had like they tried to get some dude's Steam account banned. Like, of course, like there's some really childish people that work at these companies. So yeah, like those people obviously disparage them. You know what I mean? But I can't have like a full opinion about a company that I haven't really had any interaction with. I played God of War Ragnarok. It was a good game. But is that the case for everything they've done? I'd imagine it's pretty easy for anybody to put two and two together and look and say, oh, well, they were half of the writing team for Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, and go, oh yeah, they're probably garbage writers.
I don't think that writing is what killed that game.
Oh, it definitely didn't help it.
That's honestly, if you look at almost all the reviews, the main campaign is literally the shining point for all those reviews.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I remember too, even though there was a lot of weird cringe stuff in it at the exact same time.
Yeah, but like, I don't know.
There's like mixed takes on all that kind of stuff.
Why are you talking about a rash?
I don't know, dude. He's just fucking doing what he always does. Talking
about rashes.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the Sweet Baby Ink stuff. I mean, just what, the internet says. And I kind of don't care. Like, if you think just because they're a hyper progressive company and you're trying to make it political part of it, if you think that aren't people that work at these studios that are already hyper progressive, you're probably crazy.
That's actually you know what, here's your base take. I'll give you a base take. How about instead of trying to like, not saying that like I think that people should have the right to be able to know who's working on their game, but if you don't think that the ideals of the people that brought that company in to help them write that story for the game aren't sharing the same ideals, come on, come on,
dude.
Why do you think they're there in the first place?
Yeah,
why do you think they're there in the first place?
It wasn't like Arrowhead Studios brought them in. You know what I mean? They didn't.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, at the same time, like, make sure you're sharing equal blame. That's the only thing that I have to say. If you don't like that shit in your game, then you should also be looking at that company and you should be chastising them as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's they're also the ones that greenlit that.
Yeah,
know
and
what I
they're
mean?
also and they're letting SBI take the complete fall for it.
Yeah, that's the thing that I have a problem with, is the fact that it's like all the focus being put on them, but not enough is being put on the people that actually released the game in the state they did in the first place. You know what I mean? So it's like they're the ones that bought it. They're the ones that paid for the services and rented out those people in the first place. So we should probably look at them too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they were vetted for, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like,
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's all I got for the show today. That's all we got for the show today. I got anything else to talk about? I am so ready. I'm so hungry, and I'm just ready to roll. So I'm gonna go back to playing some Dragon's Dogma. You guys can enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic week. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, and we'll be seeing you guys next Sunday. But also, I'll be probably a video on Monday. I don't know. We'll see. Something will happen.
Games. We're playing games Monday, bro. We're
We'll
playing
do
games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we're podcasting again. That's what your schedule looks like.
That's what you're making my schedule for me now.
That's your fucking schedule.
All right,
for the next week.
Whatever, Mom. Okay. All right, boys. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll see you next week. Peace.